Welcome to a OSRPG presents a Blades in the Dark story, episode 14. We are very excited to bring you this episode. It's crazy to think, and I'm doing this every week now, basically. It's like, man, it's been 14 episodes, it's been 13 episodes, but it's been really, really awesome. So we are super excited to bring you tonight's episode. We hope you will enjoy it. Right out the gate, though, I'm going to get introductions going. So I'm going to pass it right now on over. So go ahead.
I'm Angela, also known as Gangrel Kitty, and I'll be playing Reaper tonight.
Hi, I'm Ryan, thy Voice Released, and I will be playing Martin MacCalister.
Hey, I'm Doug. I'm been playing Ezra Arcady, otherwise known as Blinder, and happy Halloween.
And I am Xylus, and I will be playing Carver.
And of course, I'm Michael. I'm your storyteller here. And we are really excited to bring you this episode. I just want to do a sort of shameless plug here real quick. For those of you that are seeing this live or are watching this video later on YouTube, please like the video, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. Right now, we're trying to hit 100 subscribers so that we can get our custom URL. That's our big goal right now, and we're about halfway there right now. So every subscription is starting to pile up and really sort of matter. So if you haven't subbed yet, definitely do it, and we thank you so much for the support. Well, with that, let's tell a Blades in the Dark story. Last week in episode 13, our cast of characters had decided to move forward their plans. It sort of all culminated in a task that needed to be accomplished. Carver had been looking for a friend of his for some time, a man by the name of Connor. Someone who had helped him since he arrived at Duskfall. And in time, he was able to find enough information to find out at least a place that he could meet Connor. He followed the instructions to the letter that he was given. And the meet was set for the second day of the monthly festival. Our cast arrived. And everything seemed relatively normal. There was a hustle and bustle through the streets, tons of energy. Everybody was celebrating and having a good time. The sky flyers soaring overhead, the circus performing, breathing fire. And yet Carver was looking for one person. He found him at a table on the far edge of an alcove of trees, a simple chess table. They played a game, and what was revealed to Carver was that Connor had gotten himself involved in whatever it was that is also happening to Carver. Connor didn't share much, but he left a letter that explained a little bit further. From that moment, though, after Connor stood up and left, He turned back to Carver and said, "Run." And a violent battle ensued. Guns firing through the air, the crowd screaming, terrified, running in all directions. And our characters looked out for one another, helping to defend each other, and barely, in a way, escaped with their lives. They did, however, beat their assailants through a strange mixture of luck, skill, and some sort of unknown marking that Blinder, shall we say, experimented with accidentally. When it was all said and done, the only thing that they could do in that moment was to hope that they could gather more information by taking one of these assailants as a prisoner. So they did. With their prisoner in tow, our crew split up, traveling to the docks and traveling back home to Dunslow. Carver and Reaper traveled to the docks to meet with a friend of Carver's by the name of Clyra, whom Carver had been told by Connor was in grave danger. After a tumultuous conversation between them, in which Carver basically had to convince Clyra that her life was in fact in danger, she agreed to come with him. Martin and Blinder, back in Dunslow, struggled with the ethics that they had decided that would be the heart of their crew. The idea that they could do good in their neighborhood, and that in every action they would be tested to see if they would make the hard decision or the easy decision. By the end of the day, and as night came, they had discussed many things. And what was decided was that instead of torturing their prisoner, they would feed them drugs and hope to get them into a state where they're more willing to speak freely. And at the end of our session, Reaper walked off down the street with Mercy and disappeared into a carriage. And that is where I'd like to start this evening. Reaper, at first, everything is very clear. Your experience is blissful. There's a warm sensation that slowly is moving through your body, like a hot cup of coffee in the morning, or a warm drink on a cold day. And as the sensation intensifies, you and Mercy find yourselves adventuring, in a matter of speaking, through the streets. You're not really paying attention to where you're going, and you can't really quite see out the windows of the carriage, as Mercy keeps you engaged in conversation, asking mostly small talk sort of things about where have you been and what sort of things have you experienced before. The majority of the conversation is in Aruvian, although it sometimes shifts. And as the night goes on and that warm sensation overtakes you, the evening starts to become a blur. You remember at one point getting out of the carriage outside of a sort of undescript building. Your feet were sort of heavy and hard to walk, but Mercy dragged you along, you both laughing and having a good time. Malone steadily follows behind you, like a protector of sorts. And what you remember is walking inside of, at first, as I had said, this very simple building, and as you pass through several different layers and doors, you eventually walk down a long stairway and find yourself in a sort of speakeasy place, an underground bar, and you see that it continues outward and it has a very casino feel. There are card tables, dice tables, entertainment, dancers, drinks, drugs, whatever these people might wish for. You see that there are people taking a drug you've never quite seen before. They have little tincture bottles and droplets, and they're dropping these droplets onto their mouth, onto their tongue, and onto their lips. They're laughing and having a great time. Their pupils are massive and blown. And their laughter is real, but it's heightened. It's intense. And as these swirling feelings, in a sense, your brain is swirling through, taking in all of the stimulus around you. You sort of lose yourself. You remember bits and pieces of what happened that night. You remember sitting down at a table and then you were somewhere else. You remember being in a back room with a few other people and they were all speaking Aruvian. You remember a familiar face, but you can't quite place it. Someone you haven't seen for a very long time. And then you remember seeing that face again, sitting very close to you in a private booth, you and them, a female who sits very close to you and is talking to you in sort of a low whisper. You remember the name being mentioned, Ramira. And it seemed like, from what you recall, that she remembered you. She knew you. She kept asking you questions about things. But in your mind, there was moments where you felt like you recognized her too, and you were talking as though you were talking with a lifelong friend, and there was other moments where you're like, wait, who are you? The rest of the night becomes a dizzying cacophony of sights, smells, sounds. And then you awake the next morning in your bed, back in the hideaway. Wearing different clothes. You're wearing a very nice suit. I take Reaper, and it's up to you to determine, because in fact the clothes would have been Reaper's decision. Would Reaper have, if given the option to wear a very, very fine dress or very, very nice suit, which would Reaper have chosen?
Probably a suit.
Okay, so then yeah.
Yeah.
So then Reaper will wake up in basically what would be like an 1800s sort of tuxedo. It's not perfectly tailored, like it wasn't obviously just made for Reaper, but it seems like there was some customizing that was done to it at some point in time to where it fits Reaper perfectly, or nearly perfectly, right? It is the next morning for all of you. I wanted to check in with the 3 other cast members to see what they did throughout the night. I know that Martin had planned to question the prisoner. But was there anything else that was going on in the previous evening for any of the other characters? Do you have something, Blinder?
Even though, like, I indulge my vice during downtimes, Ezra has, as we've seen, a fairly established addiction. So when he takes to bed at night, especially recently with the sounds that are accompanying him during his sleep, he finds himself basically sitting in the study. He has candles lined up. He's lit more than one because he knows how sometimes these things can happen. He's got a long pipe with a copper tin, and he is smoking opium, trying to get some sleep, and being stuck in memories of the past.
So he will eventually find his sleep, whether it's deep into the indulgence or it's just from exhaustion. We'll move on to Martin. Will Martin end up getting any amount of sleep? Or does Martin try to push himself and try to interrogate the prisoner pretty much through the majority of the night?
No. Knowing that drugs can wear off and do wear off after a while, more than likely he's going to try and push himself to stay up and question this guy while the opportunity presents itself.
Okay. Carver.
Carver is going to make accommodations for Clyra. He's going to try and make them as comfortable as possible, and definitely put some work into, giving her a space that doesn't suck 100%.
So was Carver's plan to create like a space inside the Pond Street pub, or was he going to do that in another building? What was the idea?
Well, last I remember, the crew had said that they would prefer if she wasn't in the actual pub. So looking into one of the neighboring houses or empty houses and seeing if we could connect the two. Or
Well, I think to clarify to that point really quickly, they had said that they weren't comfortable with her being in the downstairs hideaway, but there was no issue with her being in the pub proper. So like, I could very easily see you having set up some sort of like, think of like laundry lines or something, and then hanging blankets or something to create a separate space for Clyra to sleep and have their own private space until something more permanent can be figured out. So that would be not an issue.
Okay.
Very easy to do. Yeah, just because, and correct me if I'm wrong, the rest of the crew, from what I understood from the conversation, it was just you guys didn't want anybody else going into the hideaway, like the downstairs secret. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so we'll say that you set up some strings and some things like that, and you end up setting up sort of a nook space for Clyra so she can have some privacy and things like that. She doesn't feel like people are just looming nearby her all the time or something like that. Just until something more permanent can be figured out. Okay.
yeah.
So with that, I'm going to ask very quickly, because we were sort of transitioning through time at different spaces and places and things like that. Who all planned to be there for the interrogation the first evening? Presumably Reaper isn't there because she left. Obviously Martin is planning to be there, as he had stated. Blinder is not planning to be there. Was Carver planning to be there?
For the torture?
I think the idea now is that there was no longer going to be physical torture, from what had been established in the conversation last week.
No, just mental torture.
Sure. I mean, he is being fed pretty intense drugs and then going to be questioned, so perhaps, yes.
Yeah, he'll probably, as the only sober one, he'll probably hang about and keep an eye on things.
Oh, over at the interrogation or back at the pub?
At the interrogation.
Okay.
No,
Martin is also sober.
sober.
Yeah.
Martin is sober as well.
It was Mercy and Reaper who had imbibed, and then Blinder had gone to bed and decided to imbibe. So you two are the two that are sober, so that's fair. Yeah. Okay. So we will return to that moment. Reaper has left, Blinder has left, Martin is left there, and eventually The man, now awake, seemingly. Eventually, there's a perspiration that sort of spreads across his skin. His skin gets sort of flush and yet becomes warm. His pupils dilate to almost hitting the outsides of his eyes. And there's this sort of swimming look he has as he turns his head, kind of slightly looking around the space in the room, as though he's seeing something that you're just not seeing.
Martin will walk over and pull up a box or another chair, or something to sit on, and I'm not gonna get in his face. I'm not trying to trip him out or make him go, make him think he's seeing crazy things or whatever. But he just kind of gets close enough to him to get his attention. And then once he's kind of locked eyes with him, he just kind of rocks back and forth with him just a little bit. Kind of get him more in sync with Martin. Just to get him on that same wavelength. And be like, hey, what's your name, buddy?
My name is Fred. What's your name?
My name is Martin.
Where am I, Martin?
You're safe. You're in a place. You're in a place of mine.
I don't feel
it's
safe.
Okay. You were in a fight. I'm taking care of you.
Why am I tied to this chair?
It's to keep me safe.
Keep you safe?
Yeah. You're powerful. But it's okay.
Where are we? He says as he starts trying to look around. Like his eyes can't really adjust to the low light that's in the space.
Hey. It doesn't matter where we are. What was your mission? What were you going after back at the carnival?
What?
What were you going after?
There was a man. We were supposed to apprehend him.
But who says?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. You can tell me.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
So somebody just tells you to go get somebody and you go get them?
Yeah.
So who do you work for?
Owen?
Owen. Owen who?
I don't know his last name. I don't even know if that's his real name. He's a weird guy. He's scary.
That's okay, Fred. I don't think he's gonna find you.
I hope
Not
not.
here.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He'd probably kill me if he did.
Well, then it's a good thing you're here. Where he can't find you.
Yeah.
So Owen, is he a big guy? Is he a little guy?
He's like a average guy.
Just average size guy?
Yeah.
What hair color? Brown, blonde?
He has brown hair.
Brown hair.
There's a big scar on his face
Okay.
and a wide eye that moves around looking everywhere.
Okay. I just want to know just so that I can make sure and keep you away from him. Okay, because once you've answered my questions, I am going to let you go. Okay?
Okay.
You are going to get out of the chair. You are going to be able to go home. But you
Okay.
can't tell anybody about this.
No.
No, that would be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it would.
Okay, now does Owen have any friends that he hangs out with?
I don't know.
You don't know? Do you know if he's like affiliated with anyone?
I don't know.
How about where he hangs out? You know, like where he's from?
We never met him anywhere. He would meet us at a location and then give us a job.
Okay.
He's like
So
some
do you-
sort of freelancer.
Oh.
He didn't seem like he had any ties to any specific group or anything.
So you wouldn't know how to find him, would you?
No.
Are you hungry?
Yeah.
You thirsty?
Yeah.
Well, you wait right here, and I will go get you some food. And that will basically be like round 1 of questioning.
Okay.
And then it's basically, I don't know if I can find anything else out. Also,
Well,
I'm trying to think of more questions to ask.
Sure. To sort of speed through it a little more, if you're not sure of what other questions to ask, that's fine. If you have other questions in mind, you could just simply ask those questions, and I could explain to you basically how he responds and what he says.
Okay.
But I would presume that you go and get him food and water and stuff like that.
Yeah, I go and get him food and water, and any follow-up questions I have will be about the people that he was working with.
Okay.
And like who they are, who they know.
What he'll share with you is that he was never given real names. Everyone was told to not share any personal details. They would basically, they were personally sought out by this man, Owen. And he said that he was going to hire them for a job. It would be a one and done job. And if they did well in the first job, that he might pick them up again for future work. The purse was pretty big. And they had to be comfortable potentially killing. Like, they had to be willing to kill if they were required to. And what you gather from speaking with this man, Fred, is that he's pretty destitute. He's actually from the Dunslow ghettos. He was, in a sense, not to say snatched, but he was basically a person looking for work, and then Owen sought him out and hired him. And he didn't know anybody else's real names. And as he had said, he doesn't even think the name Owen is the man's real name. And he also went by a fake name as well. So other than the places that, the one place that he had been told they would meet for the job and given the information, there's pretty much no other information he has. I mean, he can give you basic descriptions, but you've already seen the people he's talking about. And because he's already given you the description of Owen, there's really no...
What was the one place for their meet, for Owen and him to meet up at?
They had met in the 6 Towers.
Okay. Okay. And for the most part, I will just stay up with him until he gets, presumably, stay up with him throughout the night until he comes down. And and then I need to have a discussion with the crew as to where we're going to release him.
Sure.
I don't
yeah.
just want to send him off without talking to everybody.
Sure, totally. Okay, so it is the next morning. Did you guys want to have that conversation before we do a sort of time forward? Or do you want that to have it be like a conversation that happens during those 2 days? Because what we're about to do is have 2 days pass, and that's when we will be going into downtimes. And so it's up to you to determine when you wanted to have that conversation.
Yeah, well, it was pretty much going to be right after breakfast was the dissemination of the information that I just got.
Okay.
And then asking everybody if we want to just let him go sometime tonight, or if we want to, kick him out a couple days later, let him get fully disoriented.
Sure.
That sort of thing. Like we're going to have a bag over his head, and we're going to let him out a few blocks from here. Because he's from here, so he's going to know.
Well, he's not from Pond Street. He's from the ghettos, which is just a little bit, like 20 minutes to the east, basically.
Yeah. And we can just drop him off in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Because then he'll be home.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just have that be, we'll transition forward to the next morning. Everyone is waking up to the sounds and smells of food, coffee, tea, etc. The Pond Street pub is bustling with people. At this point, you have Eunice here, who is mostly frequenting, Aldo's room and stuff, and occasionally is coming down to interact with people and see how they're doing and stuff like that. Virgil, of course, is in the upstairs room, and he comes down, he checks in on Aldo, and then comes down and make himself some tea or something like that. Or you'll often find him sitting down in the lower section at a table, like reading a book or something, whenever he's not working on stuff with Aldo. Of course, Mercy is around. You have Clem and Marvin, who are also nearby, and they basically like bunked up and pulled out like bedrolls, and they put them kind of close to the door, not in front of the door, but pretty close. And so there's a lot of people, and as you guys wake up, there's sort of even more people in the space. So.
Blinder will come up and get some tea. Not looking terribly rested, but rested. Just normal kind of like. But his clothes, he was up earlier in the morning, pressing his clothes and make sure his outfit was clean because it hasn't been done so in a while. Maybe on the roof hanging laundry or something. And then he comes back down, makes some tea, waits for Martin to come in, or seeing Martin come in from the end of his activities.
Yeah. Morning.
Questioning go very well.
It went better than expected. I got all kinds of information out of this guy without having to resort to hurting him once. It was enlightening.
Good.
So his name is Fred.
Mm-hmm.
And he and the other cronies that we met last night were all individually hired by a guy named Owen. Or at least that's the name that Fred knew him by. And he's this kind of average-sized guy with brown hair. He's got a scar on his face and one white eye.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of a rough and tumble sort, I'm imagining. They were hired to do a job that would possibly involve killing, and they knew that.
Interesting. So, okay.
That's a side note. And yeah, he's from the Dunslow ghettos,
I see.
right down the road.
So they're hired muscle. Disposable.
Well, I imagine so, but this Owen guy, he's like a freelancer. He doesn't work for anybody, at least as far as Fred knows.
I see.
You know, but Fred's pretty low on the totem pole.
Well, that could mean either one of two things. Either one, the organization that Mr. Owen works for is not that large. Two is more clandestine in nature, a secret. Or three is not used to operating in among the poors.
Well, they were well funded because the purse was pretty large to get.
I see.
To get Carver.
Well, we know that about them at least, that they are well funded. This will be an evolving mystery, I'm sure. What are we going to do with Fred? Are you finished with him?
Reaper comes in while you guys are talking. And I'm dressed to the nines.
Martin looks over, and jaw just kind of slides over right next to Reaper. Can I get a spin, please?
What's that?
Can I get a spin?
Oh,
please?
yes,
Because this looks amazing.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Where did you get that done? That looks amazing.
I think I know, but I'm not really sure.
Mercy!
I agree, Mr. You look quite extravagant, my dear.
Thank you.
I take it that you had interesting time.
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did.
T, since you're in costume, I believe all when you're wearing the clothes, T is a must. Yeah. I apologize for the blend, by the way. If you're not accustomed to it, it should be okay. A little bitter.
Okay. Thank you. I think I'll start wearing this everywhere.
It's quite easy to get used to.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead.
We were just talking about Mr. Fred, the individual whom Martin was questioning last night under hallucinations. Or our assailant.
I would say better than breaking bones.
I'll just say, just for brevity, so we don't repeat the same information.
Yeah.
Martin, catch you up to speed on what he just told me.
Yeah.
We were deciding what to do with him. Assume. Looking over at Martin.
Well, I had the idea to bag him in the night, just put a bag on his head, take him out to the ghetto, right over here where he's from, and dump him.
I see.
Either that or we can hire him.
No. I don't think that is appropriate. We don't know who he trusts or even if he's telling the truth. For all you know, he could have been immune to the drugs that you took him and been very good at telling us lies.
People's eyes don't get that way if they're faking it. He was gone.
I see. Well, regardless, I don't think it would be appropriate. Trust issues and whatnot. I would suggest perhaps getting him leaving him somewhere where he will spend some time in seclusion and not be victimized, as often people are. An abandoned building, somewhere, closet or something. Let him sleep it off for quite some time in wherever you dump him. So that way he will not have the fresh residual of his localized environment, i.e. the interrogation chamber or a good memory.
Well, look, I don't know exactly where to put him, but I would... that's why I'm asking you all.
I could recall... between me and Reaper, can me and Reaper figure out a place that would be a reasonable spot to dump him where he might be able to sleep off an 8-hour spell?
The shelter that you had stayed at or tried to stay at a few times would be... and there's several shelters throughout the Dunslow. So, I mean, any one of them, but yeah.
Yes, a shelter. If I remember right, there's a shelter on the other side of the district. You did well, not other side, just past Iron Hook. On the edge of our home sweet ghetto here. Should be. It's not frequented very often.
Well,
but it's
hey,
also not. There's also people there are also not victimized nearly as much.
well, hey, that's awesome. Would you mind getting him there? Because I need to get some sleep. I've been up all night. I wanted to make sure I got him while he was fresh. I need some sleep.
I'm sure me and Reaper, after our tea, of course you will not be able to wear your outfit. I would not wear your outfit around this neighborhood. You grew up here, you know as well as I do.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
It would attract attention, my dear.
A few moments
That's
later,
fair.
you guys hear a knock at the secret door. It's sort of become the custom that if someone's coming out and there's people in there, you guys will do like a knock just to check to make sure that no one's in the space that you don't want to know that the door is there, basically.
Okay, so we'll make sure nobody's in the space.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, hey, leave. We want to talk privately.
Yeah, and, we'll say Clem was in there grabbing some food, and he's like, yeah, no problem. And he grabs his food and he heads out. You shut the door. As soon as the door shuts, the hatch opens, and up walks Mercy, who is wearing almost an identical suit to what Reaper's wearing, but Mercy looks hungover, just absolutely hungover. It's like that, the collar is open, the tie is half slung or whatever, like the old style ties that they would do into the bow tie is kind of like hanging there. There's this like bit of hair that is sort of just sticking off of Mercy's head, and they've got like that drool stain, kind of thing like on their face that they're like kind of wiping off or whatever, as though they had been asleep and minutes before when Martin had screamed their name was the only reason that they had awoken. So Mercy, without even saying anything, comes up, grabs some coffee, and starts poking at some of the food, and is just like standing there, eyes barely even open, just standing in the space, like, and sipping at the beverage.
Morning. I'll try to keep my voice down. We should move the person. We are running short on supplies with mouths to feed. We will have to make sure everything's... But I believe there's some... Here. And he goes in, not being very accustomed to the kitchen yet. He goes and finds basically puts something together for muffins or biscuits or whatever else, like quick morning food that you can whip up.
Oats.
Oats. Oh yeah, oats. And he put some oats on the pot.
Probably mushroom oats.
Oh, of course. It's so gross.
Remember to eat your mushroom-os.
Ow. Okay, so And then we were just talking about the interrogation. We have our information. Me and Reaper were going to leave for a bit, and I have a little bit of energy to go do this, but I really need Virgil to take a look at me. Pain has gone down, but abated. Swelling is still there. I believe. Are you okay, Mercy? For a minute, or did you want to?
I think you better let her wake up.
What? Mercy says.
Never mind. And
She'll sit down in one of the chairs and then just like sort of flop there. And just getting really low in the chair, you know? Like almost like falling back asleep kind of a thing.
he'll pour the rest of the teapot into his cup and then just like down it, like, you know, real quick and be like, oh, well, tea's done. Let's go.
Okay. So, I will presume people will eat and things like that. Was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about before we move forward? Okay. Presumably Blinder and someone else, Reaper, was it? Was going to go take the man to a portion of Dunslow, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your plan was to take him specifically to the shelter that you had stayed at, or to just dump him at the nearest one, basically?
I'm going to try to think of a shelter that is not frequented too often by a bunch of people, so if we lay him down, he's not going to get pushed out of a cot or something like that, or nobody's going to wake him up.
Okay, so it's probably not the one that you stayed at then, but it'll probably be a different one. We'll say on the farther side of town, further away from Iron Hook. So you guys spend some time, I presume you like rent a carriage or something so you don't have this guy with a bag over his head like drawing attention. You eventually make your way all the way to the other side of Dunslow, finding yourself at one of the shelters. You remove the bag, remove the bindings, all of that sort of stuff. He's more or less kind of like barely awake. It seems like Martin had mostly kept him awake all night and he's sort of just barely there. But you help him inside the shelter. The people don't really question it much. One of the people asks is he nursing a hangover or something? Is he going to be okay?
Oh, he's fine. He had, he's, bit of an alcoholic.
So he just needs a place to sleep it off for a night or so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should be okay then. Is there a place we can contact you? Or are you family, friend?
Oh, we're just good Samaritans.
Oh, I see. Well, I appreciate that.
Bye.
Bye. And you leave. And so with that, we will transition. 2 days will be passing from that morning. And during those 2 days, our varied characters will be engaging in different actions. So we're just going to try and quickly sort of move through these things. So first off, we'll start with Reaper. Reaper, you and I had a conversation. Your plan was to... Why don't you go ahead and explain how you might go about performing your actions? And then
I
we'll
was
do the roles for them.
thinking... Okay. I was thinking about going and talking to people in the neighborhood and trying to get them friendly to me, hospitable to me, so that the idea is if the cops come looking around, they're less likely to turn us in.
Okay.
So by doing charity work for them maybe, or something nice for them, or
Sure.
taking care of their family, things like that.
Sure. So you, you volunteer some time at some soup kitchens, shelters, we'll say, or something like that. You offer assistance to some of the nearby businesses upon street, basically saying, hey, I'm new to the area. You don't have to worry about paying me. I'm just trying to let people know that, we're opening up a new business. If there's any help that you need, let us know. And you sort of spread the good word of the Risen, in a sense. So why don't you go ahead and roll for both of those downtimes? It would be whichever skill you feel is most appropriate, And you had planned to do this action twice, so why don't we do the first action first, and then see how much heat this is reducing. For those in the audience watching, heat is think of it like the wanted levels in video games like Grand Theft Auto, right? And if our crew doesn't manage their heat bar, it will eventually get so high it will give them what's known as a wanted level, and then all of the heat goes away. So what they're trying to do is, because now they have their crew sheet and they can actually see how much heat they have, they're trying to, in the case of Reaper, to do good works and things like that, and try and boost their sort of public perspective, so that if cops come looking for them to arrest them or whatever, people will be like, oh, I don't know who you're talking about. So, yeah. What was your roll, Reaper?
So my first roll is 6.
A 6?
A 6.
Well, it's what skill were you planning to use?
Oh, sway, sorry.
Okay, so you only had 1 dice for sway?
So I only have 1 die.
Okay, and you rolled a 6?
I rolled a 6 on my first roll.
Okay, so that's the first action. So a 6 is a full success, and in downtimes that is 3 segments, so that would be -3 heat right out the gate. So now there is 5 heat remaining.
I got a 3 on my second, so that's...
So that will be 1 heat removed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the way it works for downtime actions, like for clock segments or for like removing heat, a 1 through 3 removes 1, a 4 or 5 removes 2, a 6 removes 3, and a critical success, which is 2 6s, removes 5. So you removed a total of 4, so there's only 4 heat left. Okay, now we will move on to Martin. Martin.
All right. I wanted to spend one of my downtime actions trying to locate the owners of the pub and the surrounding businesses.
Okay, perfect.
So I don't know if that's a roll I make, or if that's a roll you make.
That's a roll that you make.
Okay.
Good action.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
I'm going to go with sway. It's just going to be me going around trying to find, just asking around, being neighborly, trying to ask around and figure out who owns this bitch. I got a 5.
Very nice. Okay, so that will be 2 segments on the clock. This is a 6-segment clock, by the way, to let you guys know. It is a 6-segment clock that will, as you fill it, will give you more information about, because you already know who the owner of the Pond Street Pub is. So basically what you're doing is you're expanding the information of who you know, like which businesses are owned by who, which abandoned buildings are owned by who, so that you could seek those people out in order to, sort of offer them a deal or something like that, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
The second downtime action I wanted to do was to do reduce heat.
Yeah.
I wanted to use command by going and finding low-level blue coats, specifically like paper pushers, pencil pushers, if I can find them. The more intimidatable folks.
Sure, we'll say those who are mostly like desk style, scribes, things like that. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not looking for street toughs.
Yeah, sure.
And make it very clear to them that it would behoove them and be wise of them to make any paperwork of anything connected to the Risen either, disappear or get damaged to where they can't read it, make it get lost somewhere, that sort of thing. And I was hoping to take a devil's bargain with this roll if I could.
Sure. It's technically a skill challenge, so yes, you can, in fact, take a devil's bargain on it.
Okay. And the devil's bargain I was hoping to get was that one of the folks that I wind up intimidating somehow has it somehow makes my connection to the Strangford matter a little worse.
I think that's too specific. Just because the Strangford matter has very little to do with the specific area in Dunslow, and it's sort of something that's tied directly to you. I would say something that would be on the same level is that Bluecoats will start to recognize your name as a person who is local to the area, because that's sort of pertinent information, which could eventually lead to the people who are seeking you out, finding out from down the chain or whatever. Martin MacCalister is apparently becoming a local in Dunslow, right? That sort of thing.
Yeah,
I'd be fine
I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Rolling 3 dice for command.
Okay.
All right, I got a 6.
Awesome. That
was
will
hoping for that
reduce. Yeah, I mean, it's still good though. A full success.
Yeah.
That will reduce the heat by an additional 3. There is only 1 heat left in your guys' heat track. Very nice. Okay, let's move on to Blinder.
Okay, first, we're a healing.
Okay.
We're a healing. So I am spending, Carver has given Blinder 1 coin, so graciously. So I'm going to spend 1 downtime action to heal. And as we discussed before, because I have a new wound, my healing clock actually starts over, right? So I'm going to spend 1 coin to increase the effect of that roll by 1 increment.
Sure, yeah.
So it's a physiker. We're using Virgil because we have a doctor.
Yeah.
So do I roll for the doctor, or do you, or
I do. I roll.
Okay.
So he is your crew tier +1 because he's a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is a 4 and 5. I rolled a 5, so that would increase it to a 6, which would give you 3 segments of your clock.
Okay. That's all right. Yay, 3 segments. Can you heal only once?
No, you could heal as many actions as you'd like.
Okay. I'm going to, in that case, spend my next one to. I guess I'll have to change what my last downtime action I had. So I'm going to spend 1 downtime, my next downtime action on reducing stress.
Okay.
And that is a attribute roll. And I roll the lowest attribute, correct?
Yes.
To reduce stress?
Yes. But keep in mind, because of your overindulgence that you still haven't resolved, you are going to take a negative penalty of -1.
Yeah.
But to a minimum of 1. So basically, if you roll a,
Okay.
really poorly.
My
So,
lowest attribute is prowess, so I'm rolling 2 dice.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to make my life even worse, because if this doesn't go well. Okay, 6 and a 2.
Awesome. So that would be 5 stress removed.
I so needed that.
Well, how much stress did you have total on your track right now?
I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so you don't overindulge.
No, 6, 7, 8. I had 8 stress.
Okay, so you'll gain back 5, so now you only have 3 spent stress.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any other actions? I know you said you might want to do an additional action. You can also spend one of the crew rep to do an additional action if you needed to heal again or something like that.
Yeah, all right. I was gonna spend a coin from the crew stash to go to research the spirit traffic, or research the mark on my hand.
Okay.
And I was gonna use my ally Flint to help me, assist me. So I was gonna go to him and talk to him to see if he's seen anything like that, where I might be able to go find more information, that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But before I do that, I will spend 1 rep, if that's okay with the group,
Yeah.
to heal again. Because if I don't, then
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
How many rep do we have?
You guys have 10 rep right now.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I will spend 1
Yeah,
rep.
and the way
off
that it works is you can spend 1 rep to gain an additional downtime action. Any one of you can. And you can spend 1 coin to gain an additional downtime action. However, you can't spend rep to increase the effect of a downtime action. It's only coin can be used to increase the effect. Were you going to say something, Reaper?
When you come back around, I'd like to spend a crew rep for an additional downtime action if possible.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so was the last thing you were going to do was heal then? That was the plan?
I was going to heal and then do the research, if that's okay. In that order.
Go ahead and roll for the research, but you haven't actually interacted with Flint on the stream yet, so I do want that to actually become a scene. So I will let you start the clock, because the clock will represent how you guys are able to research it, but there will be basically a scene that we're going to do, not necessarily right now, but there will eventually be a scene where you basically go and chat with Flint and talk about stuff.
Okay. And what would be more applicable in your opinion, hunt or study?
Study.
Okay. Because I know you study a lot, so I'm just going to be like, hunting down stuff is also applicable too. 6 and a 2.
Okay, so that will be 3 segments on a 6-segment clock.
Oh.
Okay. Was that all of your actions?
Just the healing.
Okay, so go ahead and roll for the healing real quick.
It's the physiker. We're just doing the healing, right? Or do I roll? Okay.
At this point, it can't fail, but I still rolled, and so you gain the last thing. The clock fills up, and all of your conditions go down 1 level.
Okay. Does it overlap like that? Like, so if I have 1 and you roll, can it just go back around and end up healing everything potentially? Or is this just like...
I mean, like, for example, if let's say you did 1 action and it was a crit, and it's because all healing clocks are 4-segment clocks, so it would fill up and then go to 1. And then if you wanted to do another healing clock, and at that point you would only need 3, and you could do it again.
Oh, okay.
So like, for example, if you had like level 3 condition, level 2 conditions, level 1 conditions, which you do have, right? You have level 2 and level 1s. So all of your level 2s become level 1s, and all of your level 1s go away. And then if you had filled the clock again, all of your level 1s would then go away again. So then you'd have no more conditions.
Yeah. I still have my level 1 scarred, but or because it's got reduced, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll move on to Carver now.
Gango Kitty had a thing that she wanted to do with the crew stuff.
Okay, do you want me to do that first and then you go?
Might as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to do the vault thing, and I wondered if I could use hunt or wreck. I was thinking wreck because we'd have to bring down some more walls, or hunt because we're looking for something.
I would accept hunt, but wreck, because you guys specifically have stated that you're not trying to destroy the vault, you're trying to do it in such a way that would allow it to remain intact so that you can use it as a crew to hide your goods, etc. That I would accept it, pretty much anything but wreck, really.
Okay, so I have hunt, and I'm gonna roll. A 5, a 6, and a 2.
Okay, so that's 3 more segments added to the clock. Real quick here. Okay. So you guys have officially, like, because I had said I wanted it to be like a clock you've officially finished the first vault clock, which means you've now unlocked the vault level 1 that I had already added to the crew sheet. So you guys now have the vault size of 8 instead of 4, which means you can now have 8 coin in the group stash rather than just 4 coin in the group stash. So
What's in the vault?
Is it still a clock for us though?
Yes, because there's one more level to it.
Oh, okay. There's one more clock.
Yeah,
So we have to fill.
basically, like, once you guys fill that out, you'll have unlocked the full, like, space, basically, is the idea. So what you guys do is you when you do open the vault, just to go into this very quickly, it actually opens into a smaller sort of antechamber, and then there are, inside of it, there's actually, like, supply caches, like locked supply caches for different things. As though it was like a place where people would keep... Have you ever seen what a jewelry vault looks like? Where it has the big doors outside, and then when you go inside, you see the individual little caches that are all locked and things. That's basically what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's like a safety deposit room or something like that.
It's like a very small safety deposit room, yeah. And several of them are empty and unlocked, so you guys can use those to stash your resources, jewels, etc. Right? But not all of them are unlocked yet.
That's the next level. Gotcha.
Exactly.
We have found El Dorado.
Exactly. Okay, so now we will move on to Carver. Carver, go ahead.
So I am going to try to track down information about the owner of the establishment. I can use hunt or
Yeah, sure, if you want to.
sway, hunt or sway.
It's your choice. Generally speaking, for any challenges in Blades in the Dark, as long as you can describe in the fiction how it would work, it functions as a skill. The only time that it doesn't function is when it's something that's in the fiction has already been established that it's not something you guys want to do. Like, for example, Reaper using Wreck to break the vault has already been established as something you guys don't want to do, so it doesn't make sense, right? But anything that's been established in the fiction or that you can establish in a way that makes sense is a totally applicable skill.
Then I'm just gonna hunt down the information, trying to find it however I can. 6 and a 2.
Okay, 6. That's 3 more segments on the clock. Okay, and what is your next action?
Do we still have heat?
You have 1 heat.
1 heat. Probably not worth the downtime action.
Martin had gotten 2, right, on the same thing?
I rolled a... Yeah.
Yep, just making sure. So there's only 1 segment left in that clock before you guys unlock the next stage of information.
Just complete it, dude.
Okay. I'll go for that.
I mean, it's a small thing ultimately, but it's kind of a big thing in the long term, so.
Yeah. Can I use hunt for that as well? All right. That is a 4 and a 5.
Okay, that's the last segment. And, yeah.
Can I now spend a crew rep
Yeah.
for an additional action?
Sure.
Okay. The last one is going to be making accommodations for extra hands in the neighboring building.
Okay.
And I was wondering if I might be able to start a clock for that one to see if we can find the owner of that building as well.
That's what that clock is for.
Okay.
That clock is basically what it's representing is it's a clock that every time you guys are filling it gets to full, you're basically finding out more information in a wider and wider space around Pond Street Pub, right? So you initially started with Pond Street Pub, you found out who the owner was of that building, and then you moved on to, the buildings right next to it. And then you're slowly sort of spreading out until you'll eventually know, okay, these are the owners of that place. This place is abandoned, but it's still owned by this person, right? So you'll start gathering like more and more information till you eventually, if you choose to, will pretty much know who all the owners are, or at least have that information somewhere where you can pull it up if you need to.
Okay.
Just a refresher, Carver. The owner of the Pond Street Pub is Lou Donahue. We do know who that is. We have information to track him down at some point.
The owner of the building next to you, which doesn't have a name or a sign, is Nadine Ross. Was there any more actions you'd like to do?
I don't think I have any, no.
Okay. So that is all the downtime actions. Nobody else wants to spend rep or anything like that? Okay.
May I spend a rep?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Because I would like to spend a rep to go to Dungeons and Sons and indulge my vice.
Okay.
Make my resistance roll.
Yep.
Fuck.
What'd you roll?
I rolled a 3 and a 2.
Okay, so -3 from your current stress.
Yep, that leaves me with 3 spent.
Okay, cool. No more actions or rep or coins or anything like that? Last chance? Okay. So, other than those actions, which now the crew is all aware of and the audience is aware of, a few other things happen during those 2 days that pass. During that time, our crew, realizing that their hideaway isn't quite as secure as they wanted it to be, spends some time spending a little bit of coin on the side and things of that variety, or at least using some elbow grease in some ways. They end up securing all of the doors and hatches, etc., within the hideaway. So now, not just in the specific hideaway portion, the hidden portion, where the back door that leads out, that one is locked, and there is so that people can't just come in, but there is a way to unlock it that the crew is aware of, like a secret panel, basically, that they pull aside and unlocks it. And there is also something like that now for the hatch as well, so that even if someone finds it, they can't just open it unless they specifically trigger the hatch to unlock. There is also locks, etc., on the building doors in the Pond Street Pub proper and on the room doors as well as some reinforcing has been done to all of those doors and entryways and things like that. So now the entirety of the Pond Street Pub and the hideaway underneath is far more secure. Has locks, has there's even in fact a little thing that one of you worked on. We'll say anybody that felt like tinkering. Martin ends up tinkering a lot. Maybe Martin and Blinder worked on it together, and you ended up creating a tube of mirrors so that you can actually, from downstairs in the hideaway, you can peek into this little thing and you can see up into the kitchen, so that if you're going to come out, you can actually see if someone's in the door. You've also installed a rope that when you pull on it, it shuts the kitchen door. So that if you want to, you can shut the door and it will lock it, and then you can come out of the secret hatch and then close the secret hatch and then unlock the kitchen door, so that you're not worried about people coming in. And you also have that little peephole there so that you can see if people are actually in the kitchen or not. So you don't just open it and be like, "Oh, hi, Eunice," that sort of thing. So yeah.
Awkward. Hi.
Yes.
This is my back cave.
Yes, exactly. Right. So you have better security on the Batcave now. And as I said, all of the entryways are now locked, so people can't just like open them. They were previously hidden, so that was sort of their security, but you've now reinforced that security by adding locks and panels and things like that. So yeah. Anything else? Let me double check here. Nope, I think that's it. Okay. So those 2 days pass. The Pond Street Pub is worked on. You guys find the different information that you found. It is 2 days later, and as had happened before, several days before, a familiar face comes walking through Pond Street, up to Welsh & Sons Butchery, and then with a, not this time with a meat hook, but instead with a like pin, push pin, old style push pin, they push an envelope onto the Welsh & Sons Butchery door frame, and then continue, and then go to start walking back. You recognize them, if for any of you that are awake, as Clifton Withers, the member of the Billhooks with the top hat. And once again, he's delivering a message to the Risen. Although you hadn't been told, you had mentioned Pond Street, but you never said where. And so because of that, they're just delivering the letter to the same place they delivered it last time, presuming you would find it.
We'll go grab it.
Okay.
And they put it with a pin. That's so nice.
Mm-hmm. It's less of a threat this time and more of a
Yes.
informal message of sorts. Was Blinder awake, or was he probably sleeping?
Probably sleeping.
Because I remember specifically that Blinder was hoping to catch some time alone with Clifton, and I was unsure if he would be aware that, you know, seeing him or hear that he's outside, would he approach him? Probably not.
Probably not. He's going to return to that, the entire circumstances with that, but not just quite yet. Not quite yet.
Just checking.
Kind of focused on other things.
Just checking. I just wanted to check in about that. Okay. So the letter is delivered. It's 2 days later. Those 2 days have passed. And all of you once again find yourselves enjoying a delicious breakfast. You have improved the pub, not just in the way of security, but also in making Clyra space a little more permanent. You sort of added a little bit nicer tapestries and things like that, so it feels more like a private space. You haven't... Were you wanting to move them into the building next door, or were you going to still wait on that, Carver?
Probably gonna wait on that a little bit.
Okay. Just checking. Okay, cool. So yes,
I still gotta clean out that space next door.
You haven't actually been in the building next door yet. You guys were in the squat house, which was across the street and back through an alleyway into another building, but the actual building directly next to you hadn't actually been inside yet.
I'll go take a gander.
Sure. You step inside and it is empty, dusty. It is a similar building to this one. There is far more space in the sense of there's not walls and things cordoning off the kitchen. It's basically one open room, like it had been some sort of supply store or something like that. There is a back space off of the building that is a part of it, that is the only additional room on the first floor. And there is only one bedroom upstairs, but it is a much bigger bedroom. Like, it's as though they knocked out the walls and turned it into one room, basically. You do notice that the back space, that back room, looks like it was probably used as like a washroom. There's like a big bath, like a big metal sort of bathtub thing set in there. There's a steam, or what looks like the remnants of what had once been a steam pot, or where a steam pot had been sitting. You know, you can kind of see the markings on the ground from where its feet would have been. You see the flue kind of going up past the window as a part of the building. So there's probably a steam pot in there, and they would use that for the bathroom.
All right. It's definitely in better shape than when we found the pub in.
Yeah. You notice that there are dusty foot tracks that aren't recent, but you know how like sometimes dust and things will cake up and you can see those things when you haven't been there in a long time. There have been people inside, but because there was far less, there wasn't glass or mugs or anything like that. There's far less of a mess. I mean, you do find, you know, like little newspapers, like randomly balled up in places, or like a blanket in a corner or something like that. But it's nothing like as bad as the Pond Street pub was, where there was like glass everywhere and shelves thrown down and broken. It seems like this building resisted most of that sort of brunt damage because it just really didn't have anything in it. It's just a big open room with posts continuing the foundation to support the upper level. The upper level is also just empty too. The windows are boarded over on both sides, so there really isn't a way that they could break the windows unless they pulled down the boards or something. So, yeah.
I'll spend some time cleaning it up.
Sure, yeah. We'll say you do that during the 2 days, in fact. So you're not necessarily doing it this morning. You spent some time over there cleaning it up and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty much empty. Okay.
What's the letter say? I'm dying to know what this.
I haven't opened it yet.
That is true. So we'll say Reaper returns with a letter. All of you are eating your breakfast, and yes, so we'll go from there. Why don't you take it? Take it,
So
cast.
Reaper will come in and be reading the letter as everybody else is eating.
You made me think you were gonna like hold out on the letter for a while, and then you like immediately read it.
No, I'm not reading it out to everybody. I'm reading it to myself.
Oh, it's just a simple letter. It doesn't have any sort of cordial invitation or anything like that. It simply just says a address and a time.
Okay.
It says.
So I'll sit down. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I'm gonna set the letter down in front of me, and serve myself some coffee, and smile at everybody.
Do we get mail?
No, it's a love letter.
So that
Who's
you
on
are
Sure.
aware.
That's a very beautiful dress.
Very, very quickly, just so that Reaper's aware of the information and they can choose to share it if they want to or whatever. What it says is Candle Street, noon.
Is this from the other night?
No,
I see.
no, this is from the bill hook.
Somebody in Bill Hooks loves you.
Oh.
Well, obviously they want to have a date with me. See, and I'll show him the letter.
It's not funny.
You don't know. Maybe it's meant just for me.
Well, they're undoubtedly going to inquire why we haven't contacted them, or they're contacting us to to work out the details of our arrangement. We are doing them a favor as part of our side of the bargain.
Well, good. At least we can get it out of the way.
Yes, I think it is good, and then we can swiftly see to other matters. But we cannot do anything until we have the assurance that we have at least one ally to stave off the rest of the individuals who might be closing in on our territory. Word will get out sooner or later. We are an ambitious crew, but we are young, and the young do not often survive very long. At least I suspect. I'm not saying I have any actual experience with this, but it makes sense. Theoretically.
Carver is just going to continue to stare at Blinder with a smile on his face.
Ooh, can I wear my outfit to this meet?
I probably wouldn't.
What the hell did I get an outfit for then?
I mean, you could, but what if we have to go run on the thing from there?
I'll bring a change of clothing with me.
Mercy,
All right, I'm good with it.
Mercy
Okay.
chimes in at that point and says, "You got that outfit so that we could go party together." Of course.
Yeah, that's fair. At least it's not just for breakfast. So how's everybody's night?
Comatose.
Same.
I've Mr. Virgil has been giving me medication. It's quite potent. I wake up very, very groggy. Have to have an extra. Maybe I'll try some of that coffee you drink.
Would you like me to make you a cup?
No, not particularly. I was debating in my head. Sometimes I speak out loud. I don't know why I say these things. Anyway, I do have something. I don't have a watch, but I'm going to pretend like I'm looking at my watch. I have an appointment, and that it should hopefully not take too long. Noon was when they wanted to meet. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's in the morning, so I'm assuming that we have like 3, 4, or 5 hours. If it's 8 o'clock ish or whatever 8 o'clock serves for. Okay. I will be back. Have a wonderful morning.
Do you need company?
Do you want company?
I don't want company, but unfortunately, I think I'd probably be wise to have it.
I'll go.
As would I.
Is this for the thing?
Yes.
I think it might be best if I go along with.
Very well.
Well, yeah.
Well, finish.
Oh,
He doesn't stay very long at certain places, and I hope to catch him. Picks up his hat.
So Blinder's plan is to go and see Flint, correct?
Yeah, I imagine that.
Blinder would know that Flint is not a morning person. And if Blinder goes, which he's welcome to go right now, Flint will be barely awake. Like he'll have woken him up.
Okay.
So he's welcome to go. I'm just letting you know that Blinder would know this about Flint. That he would know that Flint is not usually awake in the
Oh, I'm
mornings.
sorry. I'm sorry. I presumed that we were just ending downtimes. So like I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. We'll do the scene and then we'll.
Yeah. My plan was to do the scene in this current day. Basically, is like you were. We'll say that during the the downtime 2 days was like you sort of doing preliminary research, and then your plan was to take it to Flint, and then you had been in contact with him. We'll say you sent him some messages and he responded, because the Ciphers Guild is pretty quick and easy, and you guys have like say like a PO box or something. Like one of you will drop off a letter, and then you'll go back to the same PO box and you'll pick up a letter, right? We'll say something like that because Blinder is vastly paranoid, so it would make sense that that's how you would communicate with Flint if you guys aren't meeting in person.
Okay. And we've never gone over how they interact. So
yeah.
like,
so what we'll say is, you Blinder and Flint, mostly communicate through that PO box, especially if they're living on opposite hours and things like that. But in the latest message, Flint will mention, the message that he reads says, "This seems like something big. Meet in person."
Okay. Oh, and so the time is at a later point. Okay,
Yes.
so in that case, basically, he'll look at his watch. Or he doesn't have a watch, so he's like, "I really need a watch." It might not be. I had a long night, and he'll take out scraps of paper that he wrote down, and he'll be like, "Oh, it's it might be best to do the Bill Hooks meeting first." Yes. My friend does not usually meet in early morning. Then he'll look very. Just sit down. Like he doesn't seem all together with it.
Sure.
So Carver turns to Reaper and just puts his elbow on the table and then rests his chin on his hand, and he just goes, "So how many times did Blinder unnecessarily stutter while he saw you in that dress?"
That's awkward.
I just want to know. I think it's funny.
You're wearing a dress now?
No, the outfit.
The suit, the outfit.
Oh.
Oh, I thought it was a dress.
No, it's like a tuxedo suit.
Oh, it was a suit?
Yeah, it was a suit.
Dapper?
Yeah, very dapper.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was a suit.
Like custom tailored though. Like tailored to Reaper. So it's still, yeah.
Well, question
It still looked
stands.
really nice though. It was very elegant and very nice. So yeah.
Question still stands. I don't care if he's right there. I just like how many more times did he unnecessarily stumble over himself in conversation after seeing you in that thing?
I'll look over at Blinder.
Blinder's not saying anything, but he has a. At first, you see he definitely does not look happy. But it looks like somebody's tap dancing on, like a raw nerve. Like he doesn't, not like in that "oh, I'm angry, oh, you're embarrassed" way, like that, like mortally, like
Offended.
completely offended.
Check. Don't talk about girlfriends with Blinder. Okay. Mercy says awkwardly. Well, I've got some things to do. Did you guys want me to come to the meet with you? You guys got this?
Yeah, I think we got this.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, no problem. I got a couple errands I need to run. So,
Awesome.
and Mercy will take off.
You did look good.
You guys are so.
I have to clean up. Excuse me. Gets up, walks out.
So I'm going to presume, based on that interaction, that the rest of the morning is rather awkward. People are sort of avoiding each other. And then the time finally comes when you're going to be heading to Crow's Foot, to the street known as Candle Street. You travel through the districts, finding your way to Crow's Foot, to Candle Street. And as you arrive, you see a familiar face of Corin, standing outside of a butcher shop. And he's sitting in a chair. Very similar to the way that you guys remember meeting the Toads when you first did, where there's a table set outside, they were sitting outside of it. It's very reminiscent. And as you approach, Corin doesn't wave, but he sort of nods his head at you. The streets are packed with people, moving back and forth, heading to the varied shops and things like that. Candle Street in the Crow's Foot is very much a place of business and a place of trade. It is where you would find your butcher shops or your sort of farm stands or your vendors or things of that variety. And not your, food truck vendors, but more so like established businesses, things of that nature. And it seems like the butcher that you see in front of you, it's not a name that you recognize. Just seems to be like an old name kind of written, almost like you can barely even see it. It's hard to make out. It says James Butchery. And he's
This
just
is
waiting for them.
ominous.
Oh, go ahead.
This
What?
is an ominous. Like as we come rolling up, I was like, "What do you do with butcher shops and criminals?"
Convenient ways to dispose of bodies.
There's a lot of mushroom eating around here and not enough meat. And there's a lot of butcher shop. I feel like we're getting cheated.
There's meat. It's just expensive. Corin
Yeah,
says.
that's-
But for friends, come on in. He stands up, heads inside. You can see he's not wearing the jacket and things like you had seen him wearing previously. He seems like to just be wearing a sort of button-down shirt, simple slacks. His hands seem a little dirty. He walks inside and rolls up his sleeves a bit, puts on a smock, and then heads back behind the sort of bar, and you can see there's a assortment of different cuts of meats and things like that. There's a pathway back behind to a back space. And as you enter in, you see there are these big ice blocks basically set out into these big crates, in a sense like ice boxes, right? The room feels immediately colder, but not that much colder. It seems like, to the best of their ability, they've tried to make it as hermetically sealed as they could. And you find yourself in sort of a freezer room / warehouse sort of space. Corin is here, and you saw a few other of the people that you remember seeing. You don't see Aaron. You don't see most of the faces of the 11 that you had met for your first meeting. You mostly see Corin and his, as I had said, those that seemed close to him or trusted by him. You see a few of their faces. One was outside. Another one is inside running the shop. And there's another face of a person, an older man that you don't recognize, who seems to be sort of the cashier in a sense, like cashing people out and stuff like that. He, as you walk by a customer, you hear him say, "Oh yeah, of course, I'm James. It's my shop." And there's this sort of like small talk conversation going on. He pays no attention to any of you as you walk with Corin into the back. And as you find yourselves back there, Corin starts basically stepping up to a table and cutting from these, you see these large chunks of like goat and things like that hanging from hooks. And he has cuts that have been taken off of them, and he starts cutting them as he's there with you. He takes some like paper, like they would use butcher paper and things like that, the old style, and he starts making out these really nice cuts, almost like steaks, sirloin steaks kind of a thing. Nothing like T-bone or anything like that, but some pretty decent steaks, and he starts just sort of chopping into them, cutting them real smooth. You can see he's very good with a blade. Carver recognizes that immediately based on the way that he moves and the way he cuts. His Carver's own experience with butchery as well. And he starts cutting these, and he's just sort of quietly waiting for you guys to talk, is what it seems like. He keeps kind of looking back at you guys and then keeps cutting a few. He looks back at Martin and kind of does one of these, like holding up the knife for a second, kind of like thinking. He's like, and then cuts a few more. And then, after a few minutes, he ends up wrapping these things up, and then he reaches out to the person, we'll say Blinder is near him, and he just sort of shoves them into Blinder's hand. This big sack of meat cuts now in Blinder's arms.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Can't
Appreciate
leave without meat. Obviously, it would look weird.
Yeah. Yes.
But of course, it's on the house.
And this is how we know we've made it to the big time. We have actual meat.
Oh, it's goat meat.
Still better than mushroom.
It's fair.
So, shall we? I mean, you still.
He walks over and shuts the door, and then comes back in, or steps back towards you. There's not really any chairs in here as he sort of leans back against the table he had just been cutting on. So we thought it over, and there's really only one job that we could use your talents, from what we've heard. There's a crew out of the night market known as the Wraiths. They're not our friends. They're not our enemies, but they're definitely not our friends. They have some important information that we want. And so far, every single one of our desires, shall we say, every time we try to reach out to them to negotiate, they don't respond. I've heard that it's because they work in different circles, shall we say. They're a different type, if you know what I mean. The billhooks have a very specific reputation, and we uphold that reputation. But that means that other crews out there don't like doing business with us, or don't want to be seen doing business with us. Now, I can't say exactly why it is that the Wraiths refuse to meet with us, cut a deal, or even respond to us, whether it's personal, something business. We want you to find them, make contact, and get a piece of information that we want. However you want to get it, whether you pay them, whether you negotiate an exchange, it's up to you. You can even keep our names out of it. You don't have to say you're there on behalf of the billhooks unless you want to. All we care about is getting information on a specific person. A magister. Now, I know that you guys said you don't like to get political, but I'm not asking you to. You're not planning to do anything with the information, and based on this, I presume you won't be prying into the circles to do anything with that information. We just want it, and if you provide it to us, you will be doing us a huge favor. And we would definitely consider that debt that you owed us paid in full, and then some. How does it sound?
So far, so good.
Is there any... What specific info on this magistrate are you looking for?
Trust me, when you mention the name to the Wraiths, they'll probably know what we're looking for. See, the Wraiths have a rep just like we do. And once you figure out that rep, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I could tell you more about them from what I know, but you also have to keep in mind that we operate in different circles, right? There's rumors and things like that. Nothing hard facts. It's all based on hearsay, rumor, etc. We know that they work in, shall we say, information. And usually when you work in information, it mostly is stuff that people want to remain hidden. If you're catching my drift here.
Yeah, we're looking for blackmail material.
Oh, yeah.
And do we have a name for the unlucky gentleman?
It's the Magister Geneva Burke.
Geneva Burke. Do I know or recognize that name?
You've heard it, but you're not super familiar with it. Blinder actually is. Blinder recognizes the name Geneva Burke as one of the magisters. For all the corruption that exists, every person is corrupted in a sense. And some are corrupted simply because they are corrupt as people. And some of them are corrupt because they understand that that's the only way they can operate. And they might try to ascend and accomplish some good, but understand that their job is inherently flawed because of the system that exists within. Geneva Burke is one of those magisters. She understands that the system is flawed. She's trying to do the best that she can with what she's capable of doing, but that doesn't mean that she's pure. She's definitely allowed some bad shit to happen, but from your experiences and your personal history, Blinder, you know that she at least is trying to do some good. She deals a lot with overseeing cases regarding imprisonment of high-profile cases a lot. She does a lot of work in investigations of individuals that may have been falsely imprisoned and things of that variety. Her career, from what you remember historically, her career almost crumbled when she was basically investigating, from what you had heard, something to the effect of corruption within the inspectors unit. And that never saw the light of day. She ended up overnight basically swapping from one perspective, shall we say, to another, as though someone or something had completely changed her mind. But that's the way that things go in Duskfall, and that's something that you're familiar with.
He'll take while the others are talking, he'll take a real long look at Corn.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Is he trying to underplay? Because he said, you'll be more than compensated.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Does he seem he's trying to underplay? Because I think Blinder, I think I know what he's going after with this particular, the angle he's trying to play here.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard his personal. You guys had a personal conversation. You're aware of what's going on with his family, and so it very easily leads you to believe that the two are obviously connected. And that would not be a far leap at all to presume.
Well, I think we would be more than happy to acquire information. I would like to note, however, that while I understand you've promised will be more than well, I think I can understand why. There will certainly be implications for acquiring this information later on down the road, and I hope you would remember who has helped you. I will tell you, however, even though I have some knowledge about this particular person you talk about. No, never. Obviously, we run in different circles. But you're not going to. She's not pure, certainly, but there is. She'll be a little bit more difficult to crack. As far as blackmail. At least from what I understand of the person, they seem to be more driven by their idealism
Well, and if you believe you understand why we want this done, then you would understand that that's the exact sort of person that we want to lead the charge to make sure it happens.
Sure. It is an excellent choice. Well, other than finding out why the wraiths and what sort of ominous way that they're going to terrify me, I don't have any qualms with doing this. I think it might be wise maybe to leave your name out of it, considering the value.
So if you're good on the job, you're all good on the job.
Good on it.
You can find the wraiths
I'm good on it.
in the night market in a place called Bliss Lane.
Okay.
Don't ask for them by name. Mention that you've, if I heard the rumor right, and I may have heard it wrong, so don't take me at my word here, but if you mention that you're looking for an informant or something like that, it's something like that. Maybe that's not the right word.
So we look for an informant.
You know, these things go codes and phrases and stuff like that, right?
Perhaps if there's a broker they work through, somebody.
That might be it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Well, enjoy the steaks, he says, and he slides the door back open.
Will do. Hopefully we can find
Hey.
that canary for you.
Okay.
And at that, I think that's where we will go to our break. So you finished your meet with Corin. From that point, it's still the mid-afternoon. It wasn't much time. Half hour or so is really all it really took. And after which you find yourselves leaving the James Butchery, is the name, with several goat steaks wrapped up in paper, Blinder's holding them. They're starting to drip a tiny bit. Blinder might be holding them awkwardly or something, as he does. And where are you heading to next?
Did anybody have any conversation about the things that were said during the meeting that they wanted to like quickly cover in a scene, maybe as we're going back to take the meat back to our
Sure. I had figured that if you guys wanted to chat about that this was a perfect opportunity to do so. So if you guys had some afterthoughts that you wanted to talk about amongst yourselves, yeah, this is a perfect time to do so. I mean, it may not be private, but once you guys get into a carriage or something like that, you could probably talk in low, hushed voices, and no one would be able to hear you.
Mm-hmm. Blinder's just gonna be sitting there holding the stakes and just kind of staring off. Not really looking at his surroundings, just more distant thought.
What about the rest of the crew, who seems to be very quiet at the moment?
Reaper is looking out as well, kind of lost in thought herself. She's a lot less talkative than normal.
Bunch of quiet ones we are.
Yeah. It seems that way.
Martin is actually he's contemplating the job, but he's also contemplating the conversations that he's had with Blinder about what he sees when he experiences the things like that, and he kind of looks over Oh, what's up?
Oh, I was gonna say, are you looking at me while you
Yes.
do that?
Yeah. And he's kind of looking over at Blinder. Have you ever touched him? Have you ever touched it?
What? Who? And he kind of nervously glances at Reaper and Carver, and like,
The stuff that your special friends are made of.
oh,
Do you get it to do what you want? Like, what does it tell you?
it's not touching, per se. Although you can feel, being touched. I suppose you're not actually physically being interacted with, mind you. It's more of a. It's like being caught in a nightmare, or a dream that is super surreal. I could feel the. Now, mind you, there was only the one instance, but I could feel the. I don't want to say energy, but imagine if your thoughts were dissected into strands like a fabric, and they were strung into a spool, and I were the weaver of that spool. I could pick apart fear, anger, hunger, desire, maybe a memory, but like any fabric in a very complex weave, there are many strands, and they are often hard to identify when splayed out and not pieced together. We are very complex people, and when we die, bits and pieces of us fray, and we lose much of what we are, become more like animate things in a lot of ways. But I could feel, in a manner of speaking, I suppose. There's nothing I'm touching, but I am aware of its presence. Yes. The short answer is sort of.
Okay. Now, Carver, you've had you had that necklace for a while.
Yeah.
What did it let you do before all the crazy shit went down and we all saw what it can do? What did it do for you? Was it something that anyone can use, or what?
I don't know if anyone can use it. But before that night, I have no idea if it actually even worked. All I know is that there were more times during the night in which I woke up screaming because of the nightmares.
So it gave you nightmares?
No, I've had those nightmares for a long time.
Oh. That sounds like it sucks.
Dreams are a way in which we see things. Our mind becomes more relaxed. We all possess the ability to see. It's the nature of our existence. Some say well, maybe it's always been this way. Maybe it's because of whatever took the sun from the sky. There are many hypotheses on its existence, but we have, as creatures of this world, we have adapted to our environment. And we all possess the ability to see what's around us, although because it is not of this world, our minds lock it away, prevent us from seeing unless we cognitively harness those abilities, unless we open that door inside of our minds. But often they will come through. Maybe you've had a nightmare that reminded you of a loved one, or maybe you are experiencing somebody else's memories as they, like I said, these things are not like people walking around. When we come to our end, at least from what I've been able to ascertain, we become more like a tapestry that is falling apart and stretched, hidden, trying to piece itself back together, never able to. I don't know what ultimately becomes of such things, but
You know, on a completely side note, the way you're describing that is the fabric as it's becoming unwound. What if the wraiths operate in the same way?
you mean like these?
The gang, the people that we're supposed to be finding. What if they don't have a person who's on top? What if it's just a bunch of loose individuals that are all working together?
Well, there would certainly be logistical challenges to such an organizational structure, but I could see its benefit for their particular industry. You may be onto something.
I'm just saying it might be easier to find them if we don't think of them as like how we're set up.
Certainly, and even if you are incorrect, because we don't know ultimately, they are information brokers. I would imagine that word travels fast when it's of pertinent value, and if there is individuals who are wishing to purchase information from them, broker deal. It's about the approach, of course. But I imagine once we find our first foot in the door, we will be very quickly ceded to the appropriate people in possession of such information.
Right. So that was a random thought. If I may continue in the previous askings, Carver, what were you hoping to get from the necklace?
Necklace was given to me by Connor. Connor had said that it would help guide me, help me hear things more clearly. To help me get in touch with something that I needed to be in touch with. He also had told me at that time that I needed to seek Blinder out. The difference between the voices then, now that I've heard them, and the voices now, is something akin to when you walk into a room and you immediately get this sensation from someone else in the room. Someone who you just look at and you know that they're dangerous. Or that gut instinct to leave a place in the middle of the night. Those were what the voices were before. And now they're something more audible. But as far as goals with the necklace, I had none.
Well, yes, they will definitely become more audible. That I can promise you.
When we have a moment, would you mind trying to help me see Blinder?
I can, I believe. There are certain practices, mostly by charlatans, but some by individuals. I think using certain focusing methods, you can begin to see. But I would warn you that you show an interest for whatever motivation, I do not need to know, but you will not like what you find.
Sounds par for the course in my life.
There's no comparison, for sure, between anything that has ever happened to you in your life and what you will experience or see. But if you wish, because it may stand to your benefit in our enterprise for you to learn the skill, and I can teach you, at least with some measure of security. Yes. But you have my warning.
Well, thank you for your warning, but I don't know. I'm kind of taking a liking to you people. And that involves looking out for you people. So I need to be able to see and understand what affects everyone and how it affects them so that I know how best to fight it when it turns bad.
Up until 5 seconds ago, I was going to say I wasn't interested, but you've sold me.
I'm just saying, if we're going to be running around and possibly running into more of those damn, soul jars, and we accidentally break one open and we have to deal with the fucking thing, I want to learn how to fight it.
I agree.
Fighting them and seeing them is two entirely different things. I don't even know how to fight them. Like I said, I don't know if I can replicate the actions that I took in the warehouse that night against the Lampblacks, but the skill does have its uses to see and know things.
I just need to be able to see from your perspective so that I know what's coming.
I would not wish my perspective on you for everything, but nevertheless, I will teach you if you want.
And I do.
And I don't... Well, particularly like most of you. I'm friendly with most of you. I'm not particularly friendly with any of you. Find you all equally obnoxious.
Yet you're still willing to get in the path of bullets for us.
That's why we're obnoxious.
And with that, and unless anybody has anything else, Martin is just going to kind of get lost in his own meanderings of his mind.
Should we turn our mind to business? I mean, we still have this meeting that we are going to. Once we drop these off, I think we should probably give this to the rest of the group. They've been going through particularly interesting and uncomfortable circumstances. I have no need for goat meat. I don't eat very much to begin with, but I'm sure that some of our guests, particularly Aldo, would probably like a good meal.
I could find you some rats.
They don't taste very good. I much prefer the pigeon. It went down a little easier, I'm just saying. Something about the feathers.
Please tell me that's not a part of fighting them. I really hope that's not a part of fighting them.
100% it is.
Then I'm not doing it.
What do we think? How should we approach what we are going to do? We want to do this expediently. We need to find the wraiths first. That is the first challenge. And then do we want to...
I think we should sit down and talk to them.
So we want to negotiate for the information.
Yeah.
What are we offering them? Services? Or... We could find an ally, but we should probably find some information on the wraiths before we do that. Even though it's good to have amiable relationships with as many people as we can, because we don't want to create enemies. We should be careful about who they are friends and allies with.
We could just pay for the information. Information brokers do take coin for information.
And then it is about finding the coin. We do have coin, but that is not limitless.
In order to make coin, you have to be able to spend it.
So are you proposing we should spend what we have to acquire the information and then... Well, I suppose it makes a certain amount of sense. We still have the information from about Pearl Street, if I believe it was the name. And
it was Pearl Row, I thought.
Pearl Row, yes, Pearl Row, yes. We could immediately, as soon as we have secured this information, and if there is any sort of compensation for, then we could come back. And we still have information that might lead us to further opportunities. It will be...
Considering that they're both over in the night market, right?
Well, maybe we should tackle one beast before we do another. But we could find out information about the operation that we heard. While we were there. Yes, we could certainly do that. Excellent. Do we want to mention the billhooks? Our relationship with the billhooks?
Not at all.
what if they know about our relationship? Obviously, it was very public.
Well, if
That
they know
was
about
for
it, then
other
they know.
individuals.
If they know about it, then they know about it. But we're not going to offer the information.
Mm-hmm. And should one of us do the talking? I don't do very well.
I'll do the talking.
Okay. Well, we drop these off and then. We have our meeting with my friend. He may be a little odd. He's not accustomed to meeting in person is a particularly rare thing. Yes. You do know what Corin is using this information for, by the way.
Blackmail.
No.
Magister Burke, and from what I understand, Magister Burke works over imprisonment cases, appeals, investigations into false imprisonments, those sorts of things. And Mr. Corn has the leader of the Billhooks is serving quite a lengthy sentence for probably very malicious crimes. My guess is that he used to use and put leverage on Mrs. Burke or Magister Burke to spring his father and have the leader of the Billhooks come back. And since there is a preamble of a contest over leadership that might lead to a power struggle within the gang, I'm willing to bet viciousness will win out over cunning in this case. At least that is the gamble I believe that we are taking with doing this. It could pay off either way. We have not made any negative opinions of Aaron, to my knowledge. But you should know that Mr. Carver and I were speaking with Corin. It was indicated to us that the progenitor of the Billhooks gang established his reputation through exceptionally vicious means. And we may be dealing with somebody who is exceptionally violent. So our allying ship, we should do our best to respect their reputation and not challenge it if we are to pursue this path.
Wonder almost if the wraiths themselves don't have a reputation for being vicious, but rather intend not to cross the line in that manner. Information is a powerful tool and therefore still worth a lot of... Well, it's worth a lot. Especially to the right people. But if you know that someone is going to do something heinous with the information that you're bartering, you may choose to sell to someone else to keep a clear conscience.
What are you suggesting? That the wraiths might want to sell us information to clear their conscience?
No, what I'm suggesting is that the Wraiths probably aren't selling to the billhooks because of their vicious history, because of their vicious outlook.
I don't think so. Magister Burke is an idealist, and she is attempting to do what little good she can within a corrupt system.
Corrupt system that obviously has hooks in her as well.
Well, it's more of unfortunate compromises that all individuals have to make. We have to make compromises in our own life. Things that we do not ethically sit well
I'm
with.
just saying, this, whatever this information is, it couldn't be valuable if she couldn't be bent.
It is important. Or maybe they're... I don't know. We should have...
All I'm saying is that the potential is there that if we even state that we're somewhat affiliated with the billhooks, they might not even communicate with us at all.
Well, I think first we should find information about who they are, how to get in contact with them, attempt to reach out, and then maybe then we will see. We will want to be very careful, though, because they do operate at a night market. There are other individuals in night market who are looking for us. So clandestine meetings should be in a place that is secure.
And I agree.
Finder goes back to staring out the window, this time in a different thought, and it's meant like more like a plotting sort of, doing math in his head sort of look on his face.
It's sort of furthered information for those of you that would know it, Carver. Reaper and Martin may not be as familiar with the governmental structure and things of that, but they would at least understand the terms and understand that there's important people and they've heard these things mentioned. Magistrates or magisters, as they're sometimes called, are in charge of issuing warrants, prosecuting trials, assessing the evidence, and they pronounce judgments. So they're, in a sense, they're judge, jury, and not executioner, but judge and jury. And they're appointed by the city council directly. So just a little bit of information there so that if anyone's wondering what exactly is a magister, this would be things that Carver would definitely know, Blinder obviously knows, and that Reaper and Martin would somewhat have an understanding of on the very basic levels. They're the judges, basically. So from there, I presume, was there more to that conversation, or were you now going to start moving towards the night market and trying to gather information on the wraiths, as you had talked about doing?
I was gonna wait until unless it depends on when my meeting was, but like
sometime later in the evening. There's not
Okay.
a specific time. It's basically up to Blinder. And there was a location that was given, and the general understanding is that he would be there in the evening at some point.
Sure. Okay, so my vote's for dropping off the stakes, and then let's go hop around night market looking for information. How about
Down.
that?
Okay.
Good
So you
with
guys quickly stop by the Pond Street Pub, dropping off the stakes. You gather your things, changing into your clothes if you need to or anything like that. And you head to the night market. Where are you planning to look first? Are you planning to head to the spot that had been mentioned to you by Corin? What is your approach, in a sense?
I think we're going to start exploring the spot that Corin mentioned and work out from there.
Okay. So your plan is to go to, I believe it was, did I call it Bliss?
Bliss Lane.
Bliss Lane. I couldn't remember if it was Bliss Lane or Bliss Avenue. Yes. Bliss Lane is a place in the night market that Martin is somewhat familiar with, although he may not be a big customer here. Bliss Lane is a place known for its exotic refinements in the way of drinks and bars and taverns, but they're much nicer. They're not like, a bar and grill or something. They're like a place that you go into and you don't find a bartender, you find a mixologist. It's that next level. They're always making fancy drinks and like really there's a lot of well-to-do night markets. You see a lot of people that look like they may be nobility or lesser nobility of some type that are of Aruvian descent and from the Dagger Isles and from Severos and from all these different places, presumably because the consulates generally are here in the night market, or at least buildings that are supposed to represent the consulates of those different places. And because this is a place known, as I described before, night market was once a much poorer district, and then rich nobles from other countries moved in, and because of its close proximity to the Gaddock train station, more and more commerce was able to travel through here, and so it's quickly become, in pockets, it's quickly become as nice as Brightstone, but in a very different way. Brightstone is very much traditional Akaros beauty, whereas the night market is more of a mixing pot of the beauty and architecture and art of all of the different countries that comprise the Akaros Empire. And so you find yourself in Bliss Lane. People are dressed not to the nines, but they're dressed very nice. They're not a lot of street people around. You notice that there are quite a few blue coats at every other street or so, kind of keeping watch on the place. You notice that most people have, not to say butlers, but personal assistants and things of that variety. A lot of them seem to stand in more of a bodyguard fashion in a lot of ways, sort of like keeping other people away. If someone comes too close, they might stop them for a second or something like that. So it is definitely one of the nicer places that you guys have been into in a long time, really. And you find yourself there in Bliss Lane.
I'm wearing my outfit.
Oh, I mean, well, you're definitely dressed much nicer than some of these people, but you are dressed very nice indeed. I mean, maybe you make it a little more informal. Maybe you have the thing undone so it looks like you're heading to an important party or something. But you're not ready to go in yet, but you're just like, oh yeah, I'm on my way. That sort of thing.
Did you fellas mention something about not asking for the wraiths by their name?
Yeah.
So we're going to play charades.
No, it's looking for an informant, something close to that. That's what Corin said.
So we walk up to people and ask them about an informant.
Well, we're in a market, right?
Okay.
It's
an informant is someone who says something, right? Canaries do this as well, so why not just refer to him as a canary?
I'm confused. How are we going to get information if... Sorry, go ahead.
Let me poke around for a little further down the street. If they operate near here. There are others who will know of their presence, yes? So maybe I'll ask about where to get information and how that goes about and how you go through the contacts and...
They're working information.
So, I mean, exterior sources. That way, if we are to approach an arrangement, we will have an established protocol, hopefully, or maybe even we'll meet somebody who will be able to essentially. I want to do a gather information check.
Yeah, and
Like,
we'll get there. But first, I have an important detail that's going to inform these next several interactions, etc. We already know what Reaper is dressed like because we've discussed that a few times this evening. But I'd like to go through the rest of the cast members and discuss what your characters decided to wear to this specific location. Because although it may not be important, in this specific neighborhood, it is actually quite important. So, Martin, what did you choose to wear today? You don't have to go into vast detail, every little nook and cranny. I just need to know a variant level of, like, are you dressed very, very nice like Reaper is? Are you dressed somewhat moderate but still looking okay? Or are you dressed like a working type, in a sense?
I'm gonna say not dressed to the nines, but kind of like dressed to the sixes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you look nice, but it definitely looks like you're wearing more professional wear. So perhaps you're a person that works at like a desk job or something like that. And
Something like that.
Okay. So,
And the pocket watch.
Mhm.
I'm still carrying on my person, squirreled away in a hidden pocket.
Okay, but
And
it's
I
not.
am wearing, but it's not out. I am wearing another pocket watch.
Okay. Blinder.
Blinder's wearing the suit that he garnered from Mr. Penn.
Mm-hmm.
I got the name right.
You
memory. It's because it had been previously very dirty and things like that. You know, he cleaned it this morning. It looks definitely pressed as good, because I'm imagining with our stash level we don't have a whole lot of luxury or all the little nice and things to make it completely clean.
Yeah,
but
it
looks like it was efficiently done with what little he had to do it with. So it may not be perfect, but it's definitely clean.
Yeah. Generally speaking, how well you can dress on a day-to-day and the things you can afford is based on your personal stash. Like, it's sort of your lifestyle. But because you guys haven't really invested in your personal stash, I'm presuming that based on some of these things that we've established through roleplay are sort of the things that are carrying you through, even though if we were just determine how you guys lived based on your personal stash, you'd all be street people, that sort of thing. So
he just basically looks like he was skilled at doing what he was, but he did not have like all the tools required
so
to make
you're
it.
Dressed, you're dressed a little bit. You're dressed a little bit less than Martin, but you still look nice. So okay, and then Carver.
Medium, moderate.
Okay. Just a step above working class, because you've never established that Carver goes out of his way looking for nice clothes or anything. So I've always imagined Carver is sort of like a short step above working class clothing, that sort of thing.
It's actually something that potentially the rest of the crew would have noticed by now, is that he almost seems uncomfortable around nice clothing and nice clothing places.
Did not know that. That's good to know.
Yeah.
You bitches don't look as good as I do.
It's very true.
I dressed down on purpose.
You're just jealous.
Okay, so your plan is to do what? How are you choosing to go about trying to find information about this crew known as the Wraiths? Are you planning to just ask people on the streets? Are you planning to go into some of the establishments and kind of take in the ambiance and maybe ask like the manager or someone that seems like they're in charge or something? Like, what is your ideal path?
My personal path is going to be entering the establishment and sitting at the bar like I am a single person and making small talk, and then eventually leading to information gathering from anybody that sits down and starts talking.
Oh, sure. So it's just other people is what you might be asking or something? Sure, okay. Martin, do you have a
I'm
personal
going to
plan,
be
or-
keeping in. I'm going to be kind of walking around from shop to shop, more looking for people doing shady things, and try and make my, not necessarily people doing shady things, but I don't know, find people that look like they're just looking out or doing something shady, for lack of a better word, and try and hit them up for that sort of thing.
I'm
For,
gonna say, so that you're aware, in Bliss Lane, as I had expressed before, there aren't like common, like working class people walking around. This is a very sort of high, think of like a rich neighborhood, and the sort of shops and cafes and things that you would see in a rich neighborhood that is relatively heavily policed. So you see people walking with their assistants that might be dressed down or maybe not dressed as nice as them, but you don't see like people like hanging out in alleyways and just like looming or anything like that. So there's really no stereotypical shady. I guess if you walked inside some establishments and started like sneaking around and peeking in behind spaces, maybe, but the streets are clean, they are nice, they are well patrolled, people are dressed nice, so there's any sort of shadiness that's going on is definitely behind a veil.
Okay. Shit.
No, it's fine. We can come back to you if you want to think about something, or you can always assist another person. If you're like, if Martin like has this idea and then he, because like I presume that Martin has this idea and he's like, okay, well, this town's corrupt and it's got crime, and then he looks around and he's just like, I have no idea how to interact with these people. Like there's that sort of thing, and then he's like, maybe I'll just help Reaper, or maybe I'll help Blinder or Carver or someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, can we come back to me for that then?
Sure, totally. We can totally come back to you. We'll move to Blinder now.
I have a suggestion for Martin.
Sure, yeah, perfect, yeah.
It's like maybe he could look for like innocuous, like people going behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Like,
there we go. Yeah.
With, people walk up and say, hey, how about that takeout? And then they go behind a closed door for some reason or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
innocuous business transactions.
Yeah, and that's basically what I was saying, is that if you went poking around in the back of buildings and things, he might find some shady stuff. But in the public eye, there's not going to be anything like that, right?
Okay. Well, then I'll poke my head into places it shouldn't be.
Sure.
More than likely.
Sort of sneaking around, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move on to Blinder then. And Blinder, what were you planning to do?
I'm just gonna stop. He's gonna get out of the cart and he's gonna sit there and he's gonna look for probably like a good 15-20 minutes. He's gonna be standing there muttering to himself while he's mentally cataloging what he could see of the street, what it looks like, observing the people, and then he's thinking, and then he's gonna start walking very meticulously through every single shop. He'll walk in, maybe pretend to browse or whatever, he'll mind his own business. He'll be looking at little details all over each shop. He's basically looking for codes, ciphers, things hidden in plain sight.
Okay.
Things that he imagines that work in an information or a covert sort of manner might operate in. So he's looking for patterns and puzzles and things like that.
Sure. Okay. And Carver.
Carver's gonna take a look around and see if he can spot anyone in any sort of side conversations. Some obviously private, bordering on not trying to be private conversations. Other than that, he might, if he spots someone that he thinks, he can ask a question and be like, do you happen to know where one might find a canary?
Okay. Could you be more specific about what you mean by private? Because, like, presumably when people are sitting amongst the people they know or their friends, they're obviously talking private. Do you mean back to that sort of shady thing, like when you see people walk behind a closed door, or close a curtain, and then have a private conversation? Is that more what you mean, or are you just talking about?
No. I'm talking about like when people are obviously sitting at a table and you'd expect them to have a conversation, they just look a little bit around them and then lean in closer and speak lower and continue to have a conversation.
Oh, okay. So you're looking for like obvious things. Okay.
People are being obviously cautious for some reason.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm going to say Martin Carver, your guys' test is going to be risky, but it's going to have weak effect, because it's like you're hoping to find something that may just slip past your gaze. And then Blinder, I'm going to say, is risky standard, and Reaper is going to be risky standard. So go ahead and choose a skill that you think appropriately represents basically your description that you had given for how you're going to go about gathering information. And then go ahead and roll that, and we'll go around and figure out what people sort of know here.
Can I use hunt?
Do you feel like hunt is an appropriate skill to use when you're engaging in small talk with people inside shops and things like that?
Never mind. No.
Okay. I was just going to say, if you could describe to me in the fiction how it would make sense, then sure.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
unless you want to rethink your approach. I mean, that's an okay thing to do too.
No, I'm going to stick with that one.
Okay.
I think I'm feeling lucky.
Feeling lucky. Would anyone, before you roll, would anyone like to spend stress to boost themselves? I'm not going to allow you guys to assist each other, because you're all simultaneously doing an individual action because you're not working together in a sense. And any of you are welcome to take a devil's bargain. So when I go to you, basically let me know if you want to spend stress or if you want to take a devil's bargain, and then we'll move on. Okay, so Reaper, would you like to spend stress in order to
I'll
gain
take a
another devil's bargain?
devil's bargain.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm thinking I will talk to these people, but I think the bartender is going to notice that I'm not of that class, of that caste.
Okay.
And probably kick me out.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay.
So I got a 4 and a 2.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we'll move on to Martin now. Martin, would you like to spend stress, or would you like to take a devil's bargain to increase your dice pool by 1?
I'll spend stress.
Okay, so you spend 2 stress and you gain 1 die. And what was the action you're choosing to roll for this?
I am using survey.
Okay, sure.
Just because it's literally me looking around. I got a 3 and a 2.
Okay. Okay. Blinder.
I would, in this case, because I am scrutinizing details and interpreting, evidence, I would like to use study.
Okay.
And no bumps or anything like that, just the 2 dice.
Okay.
3 and 1.
Okay. And Carver.
I would like to argue to use hunt. I am looking for specific mannerisms. So I'm just kind of glancing about the room, looking for those mannerisms. If I don't see them, gazing over the next target, seeing if I can spot them there.
Sure, yeah.
One and a 4.
Okay. Reaper. You're engaging in conversation, and you're able to ascertain. You're not using the word wraiths, are you? You're just asking about it. Well, what is it that you're specifically asking? If, because you will be getting one question to ask.
Okay. I'm looking for a group that specializes in information broker.
Okay. So that's basically what you're asking around about, is trying
Yeah.
to hear about a group that specializes in information gathering.
In this area. Yeah.
What you will get is that people will mention a group of masked individuals that are known to buy and sell information. One of them says, a friend of mine got blackmailed by them, I think. And they also stole some of her jewelry. It was the worst. Shortly after a few of these conversations, though, the host comes over to Reaper and is like, Madam, even though we enjoy your company, I must point out that you haven't ordered anything. And if you're not going to be a paying patron, I have to ask you to leave.
Yep, I'm gone. Good night.
And he just walks away, politely, trying to keep face and everything in front of these other guests, etc. Okay. Martin, as you're moving through different buildings and things, you eventually find some people go walking off into a back room, and you spend some time waiting until no one's paying attention, and then you open the door, and back into that room is basically a empty sort of office, and those people are just gone. So so that's what you notice. You sadly, I believe, got a 3 was your highest.
Yeah, I got a 3.
Yeah, so you won't get to ask any questions on this specific round, but you did help the overall clock to basically gather the full picture for the crew. So you did assist in that way. And you've also uncovered a little bit of information. It's not quite a question that you can ask and then is answered. You have determined, though, that there are secret passages all throughout buildings, not just in Dunslow, but obviously here in the night market as well. And so perhaps that is how the wraiths might conduct business as well, as through they're obviously not going to have a storefront, just like you guys might have the Pond Street pub, but you probably have a sort of secret place hidden away. But it may in fact be one of these buildings, or perhaps nearby, maybe. Blinder. You get to ask one question.
I want to know. I want to know if I want to know if there's any like covert communications that are happening, because that's what I'm looking for, right? And what they might say, or take a pot shot. Maybe not necessarily know what they say because they're encrypted or whatever, but.
You notice a weird thing in some of the, not all of the windows, but in a few different buildings. It seems like there are lanterns like setting into the area and setting natural light, but there's a few like candles inside, lamps and things like that, like oil lamps, and they seem to be lit. And as you're sitting there watching, at different points in time, just randomly, even though it's like daylight and there's still not tons of light, but there's enough light that why do you need so many lamps? You'll notice that people will walk up to the lamp, which are inside the people's shops, and they'll like light an additional lamp, or they'll like put a different lamp out or something like that. Like they'll put one of them out, leave one lit, or maybe they'll walk up and light two. So there seems to be some sort of perhaps code going on here that
There's some sort of communication. There's something other than the purpose of lighting a candle.
yeah. But
That's happening.
it's obviously mundane enough that other people aren't going to be like, oh, why is that guy lighting a lamp? You know?
Yeah, nobody asked that. Like, it's like, oh, it's okay. Turn on a light.
Mm.
Huh, okay. And it's happening sporadically throughout the different stores.
3 different buildings specifically.
Okay.
Okay, Carver. So you did add to the overall clock, but you also, once again, rolled like a 3, if I remember right, so you won't be able to ask a question. But
Rolled a 4. A 1 and a 4.
oh, a 1. Sorry, I heard the 1 and didn't hear the 4. Okay, so you will get to ask one question. My apologies. Sorry about that, bud. Oh, go ahead. You get to ask a question.
Is this a general question, or am I asking someone physically?
No, think of it more as like you get to ask me, the storyteller, a question, and then I answer it to you, and also describe in the fiction how it would make sense that your character figured this thing out. Right? Think of this as like, this is sort of behind the scenes of how your character goes through these varied actions that take time, but it eventually leads you to this overall realization about something, right?
Do I notice anyone moving from place to place and then speaking to people, like going and having like conversations privately with people and then leaving potentially? Or
you don't. Okay, I'll describe it in this way. You don't see anyone walking into a building to have a private conversation and then leaving. Something you do notice though is that people will have a conversation and then someone will walk into the back and then just be gone. And then later on, a different person will come out. And then that person will go back in and disappear for a while. And you're not sure if it's like a storage space or something like that, but this is happening at a bunch of different places. And eventually you start to notice that that someone you saw over here looks similar to a person you might have seen over in that shop. But they never left the shop and walked across the street. They actually just went further into they walked inside the building and were gone. And then like 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, wait, is that the same person? You know, and you're noticing this is going on.
okay, I'm gonna try to keep track of one of those people.
You're not able to see enough distinguishing features about them to like know who it was, like be able to track them for long, because eventually they'll sort of disappear. But you'll be like, oh, a man in a red suit or something, right? You'll see that man in a red suit and he's got a very specific flower or something, and then you notice, wait, is that another man in a red suit with a flower? And you know, it's that sort of thing. It's not so much like you're standing right in front of them, you see his face, you're able to draw this full picture. It's more of like that's weird, why, you know, that sort of thing. Because as you had said, you're sort of taking in lots of different places and lots of different things, right?
Okay, that works.
Yeah. Okay, so from there, I presume the crew eventually comes back together. We'll say that a few of you happen upon Reaper as they're sort of politely led out of the establishment they were in.
Yeah. I'll very innocuously be like, oh, excuse me, ma'am. Didn't I see you down here? I believe you dropped something. I left it with my friend. But I can return it to you. Would you care to?
Sure.
You know. Just care to walk with me, like that kind of thing. Spark a conversation. Just pretend like we're talking innocuously.
Something I will give to Carver here, because he was sort of doing a general thing, and it was something that Blinder may have noticed as well, is that there are a few blue coats down the street that seem to be paying particular attention to Blinder, because he was standing in the middle of the road mumbling to himself and like doing stuff, and so Carver will definitely notice that, and Blinder may have eventually been like, wait, blue coats are looking at me, this is weird, that sort of thing.
As soon as I see Blinder, I'm gonna walk up to him or walk past him and mention it.
Oh, let's leave the area and compare notes. Police right now would probably not yes, the blue coats attention is not something we want. So, and then he'll get even more nervous looking, which probably won't help him. But
We'll say you see Martin down the street a ways. He comes awkwardly walking out of a building that a shop that he may have been asked to leave as well. Like, excuse me, sir, you can't be back here. And then you're asked to leave the shop as you were like looking in some of the back spaces, Martin.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies. I was just checking it out.
just tell me you're looking for the bathroom.
So you all eventually find each other. And you said you were going to head some distance away from Bliss Lane in order to sort of gather your thoughts. Okay.
Yeah, Blinder will indicate that it's probably wise if we leave the area before we start.
Yeah.
You know.
So we'll say you guys walk for, 10, 15 minutes until you eventually find yourself outside of Bliss Lane. Maybe even hopping into a carriage and going a short distance or something like that, just to sort of get you a little further away. You eventually find yourself, we'll say, outside of a few different food truck vendor sort of places, maybe grabbing a bite to eat for lunch, and then you guys all find yourselves alone, or at least relatively alone, in your own sort of little alcove of space for a time.
So, notes comparing.
I don't
I think
have
they can
much.
turn invisible.
They wear masks. They extort people with information and they steal jewelry. That's all I got.
Okay.
No. I'm actually very interested in what Martin said.
Oh, I saw some folks walk into a back room, followed them in there later, and they were gone. Now, don't get me wrong. I fully understand that it means that they probably have some kind of thing like we have. But I just thought it would be funnier to say that they can turn invisible.
Well, I mean, what if they had something similar to we have?
All the more reason for me to learn how to see it.
I do admit that I am not the only individual in this world or even in this city to have such a. It does not mean that everyone does. And I said people could see, not every. Anyway, they are using mundane means to communicate, I believe. I don't know what they are saying to each other, but they are the lamps, the lanterns. They turn them on and off at a very innocuous times. There's a pattern there, and it is not. It is out of place, but only if you're looking at it. So I believe there's 3 buildings that they may be using for their operations, and or at least that might be the entrance places. So those are maybe places we should ask for an informant. But if they blackmail people, now we know the reason why Corn wants them. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just that is what I noticed.
I noticed about the same thing.
Okay, it is settled. Let us
There is a piece more. I think there might be more connection. Maybe.
What?
Well, you see, there were individuals over there dressed a certain way, looking a certain way. And then they could swear I'd see them pop out somewhere down the road.
Do they have tunnels or something?
That's what I'm saying, is that I think it's all connected. Somehow.
It's conceivable. The city is very old, and it has been built upon their layers of infrastructure. In particularly old places, and well, I would imagine this district, by the looks of it, is probably among the older parts. So there very well could be it makes sense why they're so hard to find. So shall we? Let's. I mean, it's good as nothing.
Again, I think I'm going to let some of you do the talking.
Okay,
I don't think I'd be very suited.
Let's do this.
Okay, so we're gonna go back together, I believe, all of us to. You said 3 buildings. I don't know if there was any relevant distinction between them. That I would notice there would be an advantage over going over one over the other. So we're just more or less just gonna pick one of them that looks like we might be able to approach people. If it's a bar or something, or a nightclub, because it's a nice place in town.
One of them is like sort of a sweet treat place. So, it serves beverages and things like that, but it's mostly like very, very fine, assorted treats and pastries and chocolates and things of that variety. It's like a bakery mixed with a dessert crafting place. And it's simply called Delish.
Delish.
Mm-hmm.
Reaper's gonna go in there
Okay.
and walk right up to the counter.
Okay, but very quickly, so the other place is called, it's actually in Aruvian. It basically translates, and Reaper could translate, to the name is basically Cafe Magic, but it's Aruvian for it. So most of you look at it and you're like, ooh, that name looks fancy, and then Reaper's just like, it's just called Cafe Magic, like, like... that sort of thing.
That sounds magical.
Yeah, right.
It sounds exotic.
Yeah, it's so exotic, but the name is Cafe Magic, so yeah.
What does that even sound like in Aruvian? The spelling looks fancy.
freaks me out. Oh, look, it's El Pollo Loco.
Yeah, right. It's like that sort of thing. Like people don't know what it means, so they're just like, "Ooh, it sounds so fancy," right?
It's just called the crazy chicken. That's
And
So
then
what's the third?
the third place is like a sort of very high level bistro whose name you don't actually understand what the name means. You ask someone and people just call it Sizzle, but it's like a really really nice, like think of like a steakhouse kind of thing, but more of like smaller portions, right?
like a bistro.
Yeah,
Or
like a really
like a bistro.
high end bistro, but it doesn't serve like it's not like a dinner place you'd go to for like a several course meal.
Yeah.
It's like a place you go for like a light lunch or something like that.
So what's it called? It's called today. It's I don't remember what the old term for it was, but it's like a gastropub. You know, where they go basically have like high end dinner lunches.
Yeah, kind of like that.
You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like a pub at
Yeah.
the same time.
I'm not a
you know.
rich person. I don't know these things. So.
I watch too much. Gordon Ramsay. Just
There you
saying.
go. There you go. So you would know more than I do. Yeah. So there,
Gastropub or a resto bar.
there we go. Okay. So you're going into the dessert place, said Reaper.
Yes.
Yep.
And you find a very sultry looking woman in her probably early-ish 40s. She's dressed very nice. As summer dress as Duskfall could have. So bright colors, that sort of thing. She is tall, medium frame, but much taller than other, especially Aruvian or even Akarosian women you've met. She has sort of lightly brown skin. If you're familiar with the people of Severos, you would probably recognize some of her features as being Severosi. And so she, yeah. So.
I'll walk in.
Mhm.
And I will. Is there just her working there?
She's behind the counter. There's a few people. It's not really like a counter, but it's more like a you come in. There's like little tables and things like that. There's a back area where they're cooking. There's like places where they have like different sort of samples and things like that, but it's mostly like you can order something or they'll make something to your order. They'll ask you, you'll see that very quickly. Basically, as you come in and you sit down, they eventually come up and they start asking you a series of questions. And they're like asking, are you here for something savory or something sweet? Have you ever been in here before? They basically ask you all these questions and then ask you if you would like to try like something that they're going to make specifically for you, or if you would like to just have something that they have on their menu, sort of thing.
I'll ask for that and a side of informant.
Side of informant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you just say informant?
Just like that.
Okay, so you ask for a personal order. So they go through all the questions and just give me sweet or savory.
Sweet.
Okay. Is there a specific flavor profile Reaper likes? Like, does she like fruit, or is she more of
Cheeses.
like cheeses? Okay. Anything other than that she would add as well?
Probably fruits.
Fruits. Okay. Okay, cool. So then, on the other side of informant, she just kind of looks at you and she's like,
Croissant.
sure. And then she goes walking off. And some time later, she comes back and she has this very, very nice, it's like these little tiny mini, think of like mini pastries. They have like that slight bit of like sort of, I don't know the exact type of cheese they use in Danishes or whatever it is. It's like a sweet cream.
Yeah, it's a ricotta,
Yeah, right.
or cream cheese.
And it has
yeah.
like little pieces of fruit set into it, you know. And then there's some fresh fruit set on the plate to make the plate look nice, because there's these tiny little things on this bigger plate with like fresh fruit set out, right? So it's more of like a sampling to enjoy the flavors than it is like a, oh, here's a pastry, shove it in your mouth sort of thing, you know.
So I'll taste it and
Oh, it is really good. It's super good.
sweet. I'm gonna order.
It's better than the
some-
pastries that Malone brought you guys that one day. Like steps above.
I'm gonna order one for everybody in the household.
Oh, the crew?
Yeah.
Oh, did they come in too? Did you guys come in too, or were you standing outside?
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about
follow boss
everybody in
lady.
the house. So I'm talking about bringing a big order.
Oh, like back to the sure, okay.
Yeah.
Look at the
I'm gonna say someone needs to spend a coin for all of that.
I will spend the group coin.
Okay. Group coin spent for delicious pastries. I can't think of a better way to spend that coin, honestly.
That's right.
maybe maybe purchasing the information. Like
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, like, really, let's be real here. What's more important, delicious treats or information that's crucial to your mission? I mean, come on.
Delicious treats,
Right.
obviously.
Exactly.
Definitely pastries.
Exactly.
yeah.
Come on, respect the snack time.
Exactly. Does anybody else have something they'd like to add to that, or do you all just simply enjoy some of the treats and things?
Blinder takes one look at the menu prices and is like, yes. I'll take a
I got you.
A-
I got you. Here, have one of mine.
why
And I'll
is
pass
this
it over.
The
Yes.
lady looks at Reaper and
I'll
then
take a side of informant as well.
very politely a side of informant.
He'll try to say it. He's trying to say it obviously straight faced as possible, but
Okay.
I can't.
The woman looks at both of you and she's like, maybe I don't understand Akarosian so well.
We're looking for information brokering, and we were told,
You realize you're
look.
in a dessert shop, right?
yeah, but I'm talking about the general area, like the area around here. Anybody that deals in information can get me some information, maybe. No, doesn't ring a bell.
Can't say.
No. Rude. That's okay. Your pastries are amazing.
I'm glad.
I do like the lanterns. I find the
Oh, those? And she points over and
Hey.
you guys see that there are like 5 lanterns set into like nearby the windowsill, and like 3 of them are lit.
I find the lighting sequence exceptional.
Yeah, they're very artistic. She at that point walks away, of course bringing you guys the rest of the treats and things like that. And but otherwise avoids you for the rest of the time unless you specifically ask her to come over.
We weirded her out.
Informant.
Silent
Right.
informant. She's like
Hey,
looking
I
over
was
the
gonna
menu.
go.
And if I don't know. What?
I wanted to go to the pastry shop. Figured I could get some. If not, I got nothing else.
No, you got some pastries. That's what you got.
I do got some pastries, and they're delicious pastries. Would you like one?
Snack time.
Here you go. Here's pastries for everybody.
They're very good. Like, oh, like one of those, once you've had these, you're like, I don't know if I could ever have another pastry in my life and not just be like, it's just not as good. Unless your character is not specifically more into like fruity sort of sweet flavors. If they're more of a savory person, they might be like, oh, I'll move on.
Martin's preferred treat is actually jerky. So
Oh, well, there you go.
That's a treat.
So are you guys heading to the next place?
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
I have a very quick question I want to ask you. Is your plan to basically do this exact same thing at those other 2 businesses? To basically
much.
walk in, order something, maybe spend money, maybe not, but then to ask for a side of informant or something of that variety.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have something else to add, Blinder?
I would probably say like maybe based upon that interaction, two things. One, let's like not go in and spend a ridiculous amount of money on food, because we will need some for the perhaps the deal. And then the second thing is maybe we should order something and then observe to see who we can approach. Like, because a waitress is probably not, or a waiter, might not necessarily understand.
Did you just tell us to watch our money, Opium McOpiumson?
I'm functioning,
So am I.
and
Want a treat?
no, I'm no, thank you. They're too sweet.
So
She gets a look of complete and total offense on her face.
Let's go grab one, and at that point, I'm like, okay. Just please. Oh, yes, okay.
So to sort of move this forward, you guys end up doing that those other two places. But by the end of it, no one still responds in this. They respond in the same way that the woman did. They seem like they don't know what you're talking about, or at least they act like they don't know what you're talking about. They give you your food if you would order food or anything like that, drinks, whatever the case may be, but then they otherwise avoid you for the rest of the time that you're there. And that happens in the other two places, both. And then you're left with, full bellies, delicious food, have enjoyed some interesting drinks. But
Well, talking isn't going to work, so I guess we're down to our next plan. Here, hold these, and I'll hand the box of pastries to Blinder.
okay.
Sure.
Blinder, Carver, Martin, follow me. Martin, you're going to lead me to where this basement place is. And we're going to kick down the door.
I think that may be a unwise decision, but I'm down.
All right, let's do this.
So Martin
I'm just
leads,
saying, I think it'd be very bad.
So
I
Martin,
really think it'd be bad.
Martin
As
leads
bad
you,
as 6 on 4?
Worse.
Okay.
Because we're trying to find these people and have pleasant
Well,
interaction with them.
that went out the window already.
If we become hostile, we lose any and all potential bargaining chips. We stand on nothing.
Or we can
We
take
lose
somebody,
before we even begin.
or we can take them back to our place and drug them up and question them.
I said, and then if we did that, we'd have an entire gang after us.
And what was Carver's response to that?
My response was that who's to say that they have the information we're looking for?
I agree with you, Mr. Carver, about we should not go kicking down the door necessarily, but we should force an interaction. Perhaps if we go to the room, and then we will undoubtedly be questioned by somebody, and we make it under no uncertain terms that we know we are.
That was kind of what I was getting at. I'll just quiet now.
And we can offer to tell them how we figured it out, and then they can increase their security, perhaps.
You're doing the talking.
Either that or I can go make a scene. I'm good at doing that.
I don't think Mr. Carver or Mr. Blinder are comfortable with our ideas. So therefore, we're going to go the passive way.
Oh no, this is something similar to their idea.
I like that
Only-
idea. I say you and I go and do our thing.
How about we not split up?
I wasn't saying split up. They're going to follow us.
Let me diffuse the situation. I was under the circumstance, the way you say it was that you were going to do something more direct.
Well, we're going to go kick down the door, aren't we? We're going to go in there and trespass and stand there until somebody questions us.
Oh.
Have you ever known me to be a violent, irrational person?
No, but when you say kick down the door, I took that very literally. I don't want to be the one to make decisions in this situation.
I don't either. So therefore,
Well-
it's on your shoulders.
Well, then let's go. And I start walking back toward the building where the people went invisible.
I'm gonna
They
follow
went
him.
into the back room and disappeared.
Okay. So it's not one of those three buildings. It's a completely different shop. It's a clothing store that is in a language that none of you understand. It just has a very fancy sounding name. You could try to sound it out, but you obviously feel like you butcher it. You step inside, and the clothing is quite nice. Men and women's apparel in different forms and fashions that you're not necessarily accustomed to. They have the very normal thing that you're used to seeing here in Akros, but then they have, different variances of cuts on dresses and suit types and different things like that that are very different than culturally what you might see here. You go following Martin through the space into the back room. He opens up the door and you all step inside. What are you doing?
At this point, I'm just kind of sitting down, waiting for to be ushered to try and be ushered out again, as I was last time.
So you're standing in front of the open door.
No, I'm walking into the room, sitting down, kicking my feet up.
Okay.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting in the room.
Okay.
For whoever it is to come try and usher me out again.
Okay. And I presume the rest of the crew is following you into the room, yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Blinder will nervously go inside, yes.
Okay. You sit inside the room for minutes.
During
turns
those
in-
minutes, I would like to pass Blinder a pair of brass knuckles.
Okay.
Sure.
Just in case.
So a few minutes turns into 5, turns into 10, turns into 15. A half hour goes by and you're sitting there and nothing.
Well, I really thought he'd have come out here. I really thought he'd have come in here and said something by now. I'm after
What?
about 15 minutes of waiting. I'm
You're going to
going
open
up to the door.
to walk back out.
Yeah.
You open up the door to walk back out and you see that the shop is closed. The doors are shut and locked. The lights are off and there is no one in the space. The window curtains have been drawn. There's only a tiny bit of light coming through the space.
Well, I guess we're sleeping here tonight.
If
And
we're
then-
sleeping.
And then you see silhouettes move through what little light exists behind them. And approaching from the light of the room, the lantern set inside this office space, you see 5 masked individuals wearing clothing that hides their form but seems armored in some variety. It's very tightly fit, as though they could run very quickly and efficiently in it. They're wearing very thin shoes, like you might see from someone that's climbing or something like that, rather than boots or anything like that. They have weapons, but those weapons seem to be mostly hidden on their persons, very close, very strapped in. And you hear a voice speak from behind one of the masks. I heard you were looking for us.
Pastry?
And I think that's where we will end tonight's game.